drums echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Giants, cryptids that call, aliens, histories will uncover it all. With Rye the Codega, we'll never be alone. Together we'll always find our way home. Oh, oh, oh.
Click that like. If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content. The Codega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with the Codega and sharing one of yours. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm Rye the Codega. Tonight's going to be a special live. I got two amazing ladies coming on, and we're going to be diving deep into topics that blur the lines between the seen and unseen, the known and the unknown. All right, so joining me, I have two women who have dedicated their lives to exploring the enigmatic and often unsettling realms of our reality. First, we have Karin Wilkinson, author of Evil Harvest, Stolen Seed. Karin brings her firsthand experiences and powerful insights into alien abductions, the chilling motives, and the corruption of human bloodlines. Her story is thought-provoking as it is eye-opening. And then, alongside with her, we're thrilled to welcome Vicky Joy Anderson, whose work delves into the shadowy world of sleep paralysis, spiritual warfare, and encounters with otherworldly beings. Vicky's perspective shines a light on the often overlooked this overlooked spiritual dimensions of these terrifying experiences. Notably, she's written the very insightful book, They Only Come Out at Night, Together, we're going to explore this intersection of alien agendas, spiritual mysteries, and the high strangeness that challenges our perception of reality. So buckle up. This is going to be a fascinating ride. All right. So without one quick little last thing before we jump into there, hey, everybody, if you want to support the show, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe, hit that like, or check out my merch store. Something like my new hat as well. I love this hat. And maybe you'll find a shirt that you like as well. All right. Without further ado, let's bring those two ladies to the show. Karin and Vicky, welcome to Codega's Codex of. Let me figure this out here. I'm having issues. Welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosity. Why am I the biggest here? I need to change this up so we all have all three of us. What is going on? What am I doing? Hang on, I can hear you, but I need to figure this out. I had this all. There
oh man,
go.
I was
good.
I was juggling things around and.
I was lost in the vortex.
Yes, I know, and I was losing you. It was my fault. I'll take the blame for all of that. When we first were sitting here before we went live, it was great, and then I'm like, which layout did I use? I didn't have it ready, so well. Here we go. So, well, ladies, thank you for joining me. We had planned this a while ago, and I'm so glad that you were able to make it. I know I got an hour of your time, and we're going to utilize that to the fullest here. But before we jump in too much, why don't you introduce yourselves? And of course, you're no strangers to the show, but in case those people have not seen you, like some of my new listeners, my new followers, tell them who you are and where they can find you, and about your books as well.
Do you want to start, Vicky?
Sure. So, Vicky Joy Anderson, as the man said, I wrote the book, They Only Come Out at Night, Exposing the Dark Weapon of Sleep Paralysis. The intrepid L.A. Marzulli published both my book and Karin's, so shout out to the trailblazer. And I've basically been exploring sleep paralysis, the phenomenon, how it intersects with night terrors. Hello, joyful one. Night terrors, astral abductions, and what's really awesome about having Karin on the show is there are some intersections between the sleep paralysis and astral abduction phenomenon and what UFO experiencers have experienced. So it's always fun when we can both be here kind of corroborating one another and showing maybe the different wings of the same laboratory, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic. I like that. And now, Karin?
I 100% agree. There's so much intersection between the work that Vicky and I do, and we always enjoy the opportunity to be together and speak together and share time with people together, and especially with you, Rye, because you're one of our favorites, and we just adore you, and great
definitely
off air, and so this is just so much fun to do. So yeah, I'm Karin Wilkinson, author of Stolen Seed Evil Harvest, also published by the intrepid L.A. Marzulli, available at spiraloflife.lamarzulli.com. You can find me at KarinWilkinsonAuthor.com or on social media, and there are links to all of that through the social media. The easiest way to get a hold of me is email me through my website. Social media messages are hard to get through because we get a lot of spam, so I highly recommend, love to hear from people. Just email me through the website. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And if you've tried and haven't gotten a hold of me, please email me again, because emails do sometimes not get through. So I apologize if you've been trying to get through to me. I've had a couple of people whose emails just have not shown up. So don't give up. I want to hear from you. But yeah, just very happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. That is fantastic. I know we've had some, I would say our conversations that are recorded are almost as good as the conversations that are always off air before and after our interviews. We sit and talk for almost like an hour, and then after it's like another 40 minutes or half hour as well. And I'm like, holy crap, we and that's why we didn't talk too much in the beginning of this opening, because I think that's good, so that we can save it for on air, because like I said, we seem to have some great discussions, and I've had great discussions with Karin and Vicky, but now together, here we go. Let's and so I'm going to start this off a little bit. So I know both of you have delved into worlds that many people find unsettling. Alien abductions, spiritual encounters, sleep paralysis, these demons that come out at night, what are the stage memories. Is that what we call them, Vicky? Sorry.
Screen.
Memories. Thank you. Now, do you think people are more willing to dismiss these experiences out of fear or disbelief? And like, how are you approaching that type of, how are you breaking through that resistance? When you tell people these stories, are you finding a lot of like pushback, or is it maybe now that you're finding a lot more acceptance that people are, being much more open to this and not welcoming it per se, because these are some really heavy, deep topics, but more acknowledging the truth of it.
Right. Do you want me to start, Vicky?
Sure, Karin.
I find there's more curiosity now, only because there is more in the news, more in Congress, and more showing up in the sky. And it's almost a desensitization thing going on, where you look up and there's just something strange in the sky that people can't explain or understand. And so it's creating this change, because before there's a lot of discomfort. Anything that wasn't cut and dry, 9 to 5, this is what we deal with every day, caused a lot of discomfort for most people. And a common example is, I'll give my book to a couple friends, let's say, and they'll read it, and one of them will come back with, I've got so many questions, oh my gosh, I love the book. And the other one will from that point on be kind of shying away from me and very uncomfortable, because the topic was uncomfortable for them, because it just pushed the paradigm of what they want to believe in, or what they know is there, but they're not comfortable with it because it's scary. The unknown can be frightening. And if you don't have the protection that you need, or you need, or you don't have that, or you're not comfortable in that, then that creates another layer of fear. So that's my experience. Vicky?
Yeah, I find that the sleep paralysis phenomenon is far easier to write off because it happens while you're asleep. And we also dream when we sleep. So there are so many built-in covers for them. So when you're asleep, when you wake up, you can say that was just a dream, or you cannot remember it at all, or you're never going to recognize missing time, because most of us sleep for 5+ hours. So no one's questioning those sorts of things in the morning. And then you're not really going to question what happened in the dreamscape, because you're so much of sleep paralysis testimonies revolve around what happens when they wake up, what they saw in their room, what they felt in their room. And so that explains everything that's going on for them. So if you wake up and it doesn't matter if you had a bad dream that you remember or you don't. If you see a shadow person or a hat man or something in your room, that is going to be the diversion that most people aren't ever going to ask further questions. Like, wait, this actually started in the REM cycle. This actually started out as a dream, and then the dream went awry, and then I don't really remember much of what happened in the dream, and then I woke up. And so it's very easy to write off a sleep paralysis experience, even if you're the one.
Oh, Vicky froze up. Was that just for me?
Yeah, I think Vicky just froze up right there.
Okay.
Of course, these things always happen. When we start talking about these, when we start talking about these kinds of things, these things always seem to happen. Yeah, and I agree. Like, I think both topics. I would say maybe it's easier for me to talk to people because, while I've had some experiences, I'm able to put out those feelers of like, hey, have you ever had any crazy experiences? But not like, hey, I've written this book on this experience, which is, very concrete, and these are my experiences as well. Sorry, Vicky, you broke up. We froze up there, so we just got it picked up there. But yeah, it's. But maybe actually, so I'm gonna tell you, down here in Mexico, if you tell someone about a crazy experience, or you ask them, or someone starts talking about it, it's much more open down here for people to talk about those kinds of things. Like, it's not like I'm just talking with people in my chat or in my sounding board. Like people that want to hear what I want to say. I can just be to some random person, just mention that something happened, and then they start telling me, which the most common thing that happens down here is called alooches. Everybody has an aloosh story, which is like little people. It's kind of like a little construct or homunculus or golem, so to speak, which is very common. But it almost ties into gray aliens. Like my sister-in-law talked about having an experience where there's this silver shiny being that was like 4 feet tall, and it sounds very reminiscent of a gray alien, but yet this seemed to have more emotions to it, though. It wasn't like this cold kind of thing as well. um but with the sleep paralysis, yeah, I think perhaps a lot more people have had these experiences, and they write them off to just a dream. That I must have been sleeping, like myself with my experience. I'm coming to grips that it might have been, or it had some sort of connection with sleep paralysis. Like I know I had this experience. Was I paralyzed out of fear because I was scared I couldn't move, or was I paralyzed by this being of sorts? Which brings me to something that just happened recently. Actually, I should bring that up. So I don't want to say too recently. It's been a year, and I don't know why I never brought this up. But I woke up, and I would say that this is kind of along the lines of sleep paralysis. I woke up. It was early morning. It wasn't in the dark hours, but it was like maybe 5. It was light in the bedroom, so about 5:30 in the morning. Well, no, if it's around this time, it would probably be closer to 6:30. So it was about 6:30. So it's not like I'm dead tired and I can't stay awake. So I'd woken up, and there was a childlike, and I say childlike because of the height, being that was about 10 years old. Again, I'm referencing height of a child, or maybe no, it was less than that. It was like 5 or 6, like age, and it was a short being that was glowing blue, like a bright blue glow, right beside my bed, so intense, and no matter what I could do, I could not keep my eyes open. I strained, and I was like trying to fight it. It was as if you're going into surgery and you're getting put under with anesthesia. This is what I saw beside my bed a year ago, almost a year ago to the day, and this was crazy to this experience, that it was almost blinding bright. Like, do you remember that older movie called Cocoon, and they had those aliens or those beings that glowed? It was that kind of thing, but it was like this bluish glow to it. And for the life of me, I could not keep my eyes open. And we're talking 6:30, and I usually always get up around anywhere between 6 or 7 in the morning. Sometimes I'll go back and have a nap, but it takes me a little bit. It's not like I can't stay awake.
Wow. Vicky, do you want to chime in on that one first?
Yeah. So what I was saying when I zipped out there for a second was that the kind of cool thing they have going for them with the sleep paralysis agenda is they don't even need to spend a lot of time and money gaslighting it online and whatnot, even though there is a lot of that. Most people with sleep paralysis, they'll end up inadvertently gaslighting themselves, whether it's through their own cultural perspective or through their own maybe cognitive dissonance or their fear. And it's interesting, even the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, he says, I know a man, and most people believe he's talking about himself, but he's talking about himself in third person, probably because he doesn't want to be labeled schizophrenic. He says, I know a man, whether or not in the body or out of the body, he visited the third heaven, which is the throne room of God. That's not the astral. But even the Apostle Paul, after he had this sort of astral-like experience, being taken to the third heaven instead of the second heaven, he didn't know really what happened. He's like, well, whether I was there in the body or not, I guess I don't really know. And so we kind of act as our own gaslighters. A lot of sleep paralysis experiencers, they deny the experience, or they say it was just a dream, or they say, I really don't know what it was. I can't figure it out. And so they really don't have to put a lot of time and effort into gaslighting us. We kind of do a good job on our own, but they do it online too. Don't worry. The doctors and the scientists are all about letting us know it's just an REM glitch or whatever. And hey, I'm absolutely fine with saying that there's an REM glitch involved in sleep paralysis. It usually does happen in the REM cycle. They absolutely require our physiology to pull this off. I have no problem with saying that that's a piece of it. But to say that that's all it is where I have the bone of contention, as it were.
Exactly. I agree. And then with what you were talking about, Rye, I mean, that is so reminiscent of whenever I've been in the presence of either going through something, a sleep or waking paralysis. It's that feeling, like you said, of this overwhelming desire to stay awake and be alert and aware of what's going around, but you don't have control. And you know, when your body is taken out of your control, that there's another entity involved somehow. And that's where, my paralife and my, protection that I know I have from God comes into play, because that's one of the most terrifying feelings you can have. And it is so scary. And that's where Vicky's book really helped me as well, reading through that, because finally someone understood what I'd been feeling and what you just described, right? All these years, someone understood that besides me. Someone was saying, yeah, that's real, this happens, and here's how you deal with it. Because there just wasn't anywhere for me to go to figure out how to deal with that kind of thing, which was happening regularly. It was just a regular part of these experiences I was having, and of the abduction experiences. It was just a part and parcel for everything that was happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and also like James says here, I believe many of these beings are demonic by nature.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that Karin told me early on when we first met, and this was really eye-opening for me, she said, not everyone who has had sleep paralysis has been abducted, but everyone who's been abducted has had sleep paralysis. And I don't think I knew that. I kind of thought we were our own thing over here, and you guys were your own thing over there. And it was really after meeting Karin that I was able to realize some of the cross-pollination between the two agendas. Like, they really are two different agendas, but it's kind of like that classic image you see of the two circles that intersect, and then you've got that, the vesicus Pisces in the middle, where it's the same. And so, yeah. So the sleep paralysis is definitely something that these two groups of people have in common, even if the experiences manifest a little bit differently or different beings show up. But it's definitely something where when we speak that language, the other group knows what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Like, the spiritual realm understands how we as humans can be manipulated and controlled, and how to subvert our will and utilize their will, whether it's the ones working with in these, non-human alien entity realms, or whether we're talking about, because we're basically, and it was so funny, because after that, was going back to those conversations, Vicky, when we first started talking, then I realized we're all dealing in the same thing. These are all entities in the same, you've got the light here and the dark here, basically, and that's what we're dealing with. So you can sort them out into different categories and types and things, but when it comes down to it, we're all working within this same realm of entities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one corporation under one logo, but very compartmentalized.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I like that.
I like that too. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, because like one thing's for certain is that, like between the alien abductions and sleep paralysis, there definitely is a violation of personal autonomy. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah. And so,
yes.
like, so we can see that there is that connection between the two. Now, do you believe that? Okay, so one of the common things with sleep paralysis is the hag, right?
Sure.
Now, is that a screen? Is that a screen memory, or is that a creature or an alien that's working with them, or is that kind of its own separate kind of thing as well? What do you guys feel?
Man, I don't know if we have the language yet for this. And
fair enough.
This is unfortunately a part of the sleep paralysis phenomenon that I have a really hard time convincing people, especially experiencers. But in my case, I always knew that I wasn't awake in my bedroom, because I had a couple very interesting, unique to me situations as a child. When I was a child, I was born without tear ducts. That was just part of the birth defect of all the things that went wrong. I didn't have tear ducts. So what would happen is I would wake up in the morning, and all of the tears that had been tearing all night would settle on my eyes, and it would crust over, and I couldn't even open my eyes. And I would have to wait until my mom came in with a hot washcloth and melted it off so that I wasn't ripping my eyelashes out and stuff. So I know that all of the things that I encountered in my bedroom, where I could see my door and my teddy bear and my pajamas, I knew that that had to have been a screen memory, because my eyes were literally glued shut each night with this tearing. And as I got older, I would have to sleep. I have to sleep every night with like some sort of a sleep mask on, because again, because of the birth defect, my eyes don't close all the way. The eyelids don't come together perfectly. And so they're kind of open a little bit. And if light floods in, I can't sleep. And so every night that I have sleep paralysis, where I wake up in my bedroom and I see my bedroom, I know I'm not seeing my bedroom because I've got stuff wrapped all around my eyes and my eyes are closed. So that afforded me the opportunity to realize that in many cases, you're in the astral realm, separated from your body, and you have a screen memory of your bedroom to fool you into thinking you're in a nice, safe place. And so, and people always say, I can't move, I can't scream. That's because you're not in your body. You don't have access to the physical. That's why you can't, and you don't need to. And I always have people, in the Christian side of things, people are always like, if you can just say the name of Jesus, but you have to say it out loud. And what I tell people is, you can't say it out loud because your mouth is in a totally different dimension in your body, laying in bed, and you're in the astral. And second of all, you don't have to say it out loud. This is where some church traditions are getting confused. There's a church tradition that the devil can't read your mind. Well, when I'm calling out on the name of Jesus, I'm not talking to the devil. So I don't care if he can hear me or not. The fact is, Jesus can read my mind. And so if I'm saying it in my mind, he's going to hear me. So there's all these like almost like vampire tropes that have been built through the time, where you have to say the name of Jesus and it has to be out loud. And the fact is, you're probably not going to be able to say anything at that point. And another thing that I try to get people to, this is the question to ask yourself if you have sleep paralysis a lot. And if you're in the frame of mind where you can have an observable moment, because a lot of people, when they're in terror, they're not paying attention to the details. But one question I ask people is, did it start in a nightmare? Did the vibrations that you felt in your ear, or the shadow, or the presence, or the feeling of evil, did that actually start in a nightmare? Were you asleep, and did your dreams start going downward? And then the second question that I ask them is there any sort of a glitch in the bedroom that you're seeing? Because you'll see your bedroom, but there's usually a glitch. If you look closely, they'll, like, the comforter's the wrong color, or you're in a queen size bed instead of a single bed, or the door is on the wrong side. And sometimes it's a big glitch. Sometimes it's very subtle. I've told stories before where sometimes the only glitch I've seen is my fingernails have all been cut off. And like, I've noticed, like, oh, wait a minute, in the real world, I have long painted nails and now they're short. And so I'll notice sometimes it's very subtle. And so they're banking on the fact that you're not paying much attention and that you're going to chalk it off to a dream. And if you see something that looks like your room, you're going to believe it. And I've read all sorts of really fascinating neurology articles that have nothing to do with sleep paralysis, but it literally talks about how the brain only sees a certain percentage of what's in front of you, and you fill in the rest of the gaps. And so in sleep paralysis, this is a perfect covert operation for them, because if you see your pajamas, your, like, the end of your bed and a picture on your wall, you're never going to question whether or not that's your room or not. Your brain is going to fill in all the rest of the gaps, and you're not necessarily going to notice the fact that, you know, oh, my window is gone, or one of these things. So it's very clever and tricky. And this is why I always tell people, yes, I do believe it's demonic. I do believe it's spiritual. I do believe you're interacting with actual entities. However, I 100% believe that they are dependent upon our physiology. They're dependent upon our bodies, our brains, our dopamine, our third eye. They have to utilize those things. They have to manipulate those things. If we weren't in our body, they would have a harder time tricking us, because we would very clearly understand something is really wrong here. And so they come at us when we're in an altered state of consciousness, when we're asleep. And so that when we wake up and we're in our right mind, we can't really put together, did that really happen? And so many of us, we look for the physical clues. Like if we were assaulted in the dream, we look for the actual bruise. Like we want that evidence. And some people, you know, on escalated levels of it, they will have physical evidence, but most of us won't. And so most of us, if we don't find the physical evidence, well, then it was just a dream and we don't give it another thought. And it's just nightmares. And we just start taking a bunch of sleeping pills or melatonin, and we let ourselves get sucked deeper and deeper and deeper into the trauma of it, because everyone around us who's way more educated and smart than have, you know, degrees hanging on their wall are telling us that nothing here to see, and the yellow police tape comes out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's very, I don't know. I don't like getting talked down to when people are like, no, that's not what you're experiencing. This is what you're experiencing. And
No. Yes.
that bugs the crap out of me. I'm like, let me ask, did you experience this? You know, was it so crazy and life-changing that you actually changed your life, but it was just a dream, or it was just a false memory or something like that? And Karin, I want to ask you actually, when you were ever taken, did they ever try to convince you that you were someplace that you weren't?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And there were specific places where they would take me in specific parts of the facility that I was commonly in, that when I would walk into that area, my brain would automatically go into, oh, this is where I always pretend I'm at the beach, or this is where I always pretend I'm out in the field or whatever, because they just conditioned me to do that. And it was more comfortable and it was safer to let my mind just do that. And I just let it happen because I didn't want to be there. And so to have a place where I felt more comfortable just immediately start to come to mind, it was very easy to let that happen and not resist it at all. And it's like, it reminded me, like Vicky, when you were talking about, you know, what your brain sees and doesn't see, and along those same lines, those same studies, if you don't recognize something, quite often your brain won't even register that it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
so for us, if it's something I wasn't familiar with and they're telling me, then they're giving me a screen memory, and they're trying to, you know, telling me to go into this kind of thought process or this place, and it's like hypnosis, sort of, is the easiest way to describe it. Then it's very easy to do that, because I don't want to have to fathom, what am I looking at here? This is, or it's disgusting, or it's scary, or it's dark. In dark, by dark, I mean spiritually dark. So yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, and that just, because whether we're dealing with something in the physical realm or in an astral or spiritual realm, like Vicky said, you know, yeah, you don't, again, I'm going to go back to, I made a couple of notes while she was talking, because I agree with all of that. And you go back to, you know, people are like, you've got to say the name of Jesus out loud. You've got to say it out loud. And I'm like, no, you don't. You know, you can say it in your heart. You can say it in your mind. You can do whatever, you know, however you want to approach it, because, and that works. Trust me, it works, because I use it all the time. And, you know, until I was able to really stop this, that was just, you know, I had to depend on that, and I still do, but that does work. So, you know, the people who are not to sound bad about it, peddling a false narrative like that, they're not the people who are experiencing it. But those of us who have experienced it, like Vicky and I, we know that, you know, it can be in my heart, in my mind, and I'm saying it without having to use physical words, you know. And because of Ben, you're in both. Sometimes, you know, you're in a physical situation because you wake up, and as a kid, I'd wake up in my pajamas, would be in another room of the house, or on Inside Out, or at the foot of the bed, or I would be in the wrong room of the house with no memory of how did I get there. Yeah, you could say sleepwalking and things like that, but, you know, how do you get past a locked door, or outside, or, you know, things like that? It just doesn't make, you know, there are no logical responses to how some of these things happen, but they're physical. And then sometimes they're not physical, like Vicky said, and you notice, and that really helped me when Vicky taught me, you know, you can see just little things that are not right, you know, like my cat is not orange, my cat is black and white, you know. Oh, okay, that, you know, Jesus, you know, get me out of here, you know. Just know. So, you know, it that really does help to help identify, because either way, it's still terrifying, and you're still in a situation where something is trying to control you, something of a non-kind nature, of a demonic nature, whether it's a demon or whether it's something demonic, you know, and that's a whole nother conversation. So
It is. And was saying the name of Jesus, saying it out loud or saying it in your mind, I believe the power resides within you, and what
Oh,
you believe actually works.
right.
So
You can say
if you're
Yahweh.
like, if you're
Love.
believing like, I need to say it out loud, then saying it in your mind is not going to work, because you need to, like, you are giving it that power, and
Right.
so, yeah,
Right, those false narratives can hurt people, and so you have to be
yes,
careful,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
We speak about what we've experienced and what we know and what we've researched, but then there are things that we're like, maybe this will work for you, maybe it won't, but I know it works for us. We know it works for us, and that's what we speak about, because it could be dangerous for someone to think, well, it's not gonna, I can't be helped. I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do because I can't speak. That would be a terrible way to feel in that situation, but I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like the power reside. The kingdom of heaven resides within all of us, and what does that truly mean? It means so much more than we actually, are led to believe. I feel that we are, and I say this often, that we're governed, kind of like a car, where a car can't go above a certain speed limit because there's restrictions put upon it. And I believe us as humans are governed by those who want to be our authority, those who not are our true authority, but those who want to be. They govern us, and they keep us down, they restrict us, and to believe us that we're not as powerful as we truly are. And we're made in God's image, and we should never forget that. That's not means just what he looks like per se. It's the ability, because Jesus said, you'll be able to do is what I can and more. Well, we have those abilities, and it's just that we are being restrained from them, and these demons and whatnot, and these aliens that are coming in to abduct us, I think they're taking advantage of that, and I believe that they are taking advantage because they're given that opening, they're given that door opening by the powers that be, and working in cahoots, and now, and this is a big question: what is the end game? What is the real reason? Why are they trying to make hybrids? Why are they abducting us? Why are they continuing with the sleep paralysis? Is it to harvest energy from us, the fear from us, which I think is base. I personally think that's a base level kind of thing, like that harvesting of that per se of our fear, because I feel that's we're just getting a little high. But I have a feeling, I have an idea of what this end game is, but I'd like to hear your perspectives.
Well, my belief is the ultimate end game is transformation. It is a preparation of the human race for their coming kingdom. There's this seed war that's gone on since January. Oh my goodness, since Genesis 3. Where the seed of the serpent is at enmity with the seed of mankind. And that war has been going on since the beginning. It's continuing to go on. And the whole entire gospel, Jesus coming to earth and preaching the gospel and coming back, that whole entire purpose of that is, what does it say in the Lord's Prayer? Thy kingdom come. That's what we're supposed to be praying, that Jesus, we want your kingdom to come, because it hasn't come yet. We are still kind of within the beast system here. His kingdom will not fully be established on earth until he returns. And so there is a war for who's going to get that scepter, whose kingdom is going to rule, who is going to be the progenitor and caretaker of mankind. And because the second heaven, or the astral realm, has a different, more theosophical religion than it does a theological religion of the Bible, we have to be transformed as human beings, especially here in America, where we kind of came from the Judeo-Christian kind of an upbringing. And we need to be transformed into the more theosophical ideas, and in the Enlightenment, and no, you are gods, and you're not. They have to change us. And so what's been happening with a lot of people that have been forced into sleep paralysis and astral projection type of scenarios against their will is there's a very specific type of person chosen for that agenda, just like there's a very specific sort of blood type and genetics that are picked for the UFO abductees. The people that are pulled into the astral are the intellects and the communicators and the influencers. We're the spokespeople that are supposed to influence the 7 areas of science and literature and philosophy and music and entertainment, all this. We have to prime the planet for a whole new regime. And so you have to do that little by little, because if they just came down and showed what they looked like and what their agenda was, you know, like H.P. Lovecraft said, we would go mad at the sight of it, as he says in the opening chapter of Call of Cthulhu. You can take the blue pill and live a placid existence here, or you can take the red pill and lose your mind. That's what would happen if they just fire hosed us with what their agenda was. So they're taking their own sweet time picking influencers and very articulate, intelligent people who can influence the culture, that know that they're really good, they're wonderful beings, they're full of light and love, and they're going to come and they're going to pay off all your mortgages, and there's going to be a new golden age, and it's going to be wonderful. And that is what we are being called into, and why the people that are doing this against their will are fighting so hard to try to overcome these experiences. I don't want any part of your agenda. I've already picked the side I'm on. I'm fighting for this side. I don't want to be a pawn of theosophical ideas. So that's ultimately what I think it is. It's a preparation, preparing humankind for a change of regime, for a new Christless golden age.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better. Add anything to what Vicky said there, because that is so detailed and precise, and I agree. I mean, you're looking at, you know, just an attempt to really take people and just put them on a different path, take them off the path of understanding who we are, who our creator is, where we come from, what our direction should be, where we're going, like you said, you know, thy kingdom come, and take us off of that path and create a false path, a counterfeit path, a counterfeit narrative, and get people onto that. And people will believe on that and get hooked into that, because it's you get back to this, you know, oh, it's all about, you know, I'm going to get everything I want because I'm going to think all that into existence, and I deserve to have everything I want and everything. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have good things in your life. I get that. But you have to understand that, you know, that's not the goal of life. That's not what life is about. It's not about getting what you want. You know, it's about compassion, love, understanding who is our creator, where do we come from, what are our goals here? I don't know. So,
well, and Karin, to your point too, with the astral abduction scenario, it's really a transformation of the mind, will, and emotions. And the UFO abductees, they're all about the physical transformation, because we got to have different bodies to house these enlightened agendas and minds. Exactly.
Yes. That, and there was a good question that came up while we were talking on there. That was,
that's the one.
And that's, So is that what you're?
Let's hear that. What are your thoughts on soul contracts and abductions?
Oh my gosh!
I know that is such a deep question.
I'll take the soul contract part, and you can take the abduction part, Karin.
Yeah.
I could talk for 10 hours on this soul contract. Oh my gosh. I won't do it, but so these covenants, my book is all about this. The Bible is all about it. Everything is about covenants. And this is the thing where when I have little reels and stuff on social media where I talk about the covenants and how these astral abductions are like distorted or bastardized, like betrothal covenants. You've got, you know, the guy comes to the door, there's a consummation a lot of times, and it's these covenants. And that's the thing I get the most flack for online. People give me all the laughing emojis and like I'm a weirdo, and I get it, and I don't expect people to think anything differently, but these are actual covenants that we're making. And that's a part of that's why they don't want you to think that this sleep paralysis experience starts in the REM cycle. They want you to think it starts when you wake up in your bedroom, because they don't want you to understand that it's going on in the astral. This is embedded in so many movies. It's in The Matrix. It's in The Wizard of Oz. It's in Nosferatu. You have a transference of the main character between the physical and the astral realm all throughout the movie. You've got the Emerald City, that can't be accessed until you fall asleep in a poppy field. You've got the Matrix, which is also a green place that he doesn't ever see Trinity, his spirit guide, unless he's asleep in that realm. Morpheus is the god of dreams. The Oracle's apartment in the kitchen, everything's green. The appliances, everything's green. You've got the Emerald City. You've got it in Nosferatu, but there they very cleverly do where he moves from his castle on the hill in Transylvania to Vicksburg or whatever it is. Like he's moving, but what he's actually doing is he's been given legal permission when Thomas signs a literal contract that they call covenant papers. That gives Nosferatu the legal invitation of the vampire to leave the astral realm and come and live in a physical house across the street from this woman that he is targeting. And so it's all over in the movies. If you're looking for it, you will see these places. You'll see symbols. You'll see the poppy field. You'll see the crossroads. You'll see some form of like Cerberus in front of a gate, whether it's three dogs or the three-headed dog. Like Hollywood will give it away. And if you're looking for it, you will understand that this character is actually traversing dimensions, not just going up a mountain or going to another city or whatnot. And just like it shows in Nosferatu, show me your covenant papers. He hands him the papers. He signs it. You find out later that he was signing over his wife, giving the invitation to the vampire. You will also see the blood and salt covenants in these things. There's the drinking of the wine, the breaking of the bread. People, they undersimplify that. They think that horror movie tropes are just like, we're doing a mockery of communion or we're inverting communion. No, the wine and the bread are salt and blood covenants. You have the threshold covenant with the vampires coming over the threshold. These are betrothal covenants. And that's why these spirit spouses and these incubuses, they are so hard to shake off. Even once someone becomes a Christian, and this is the thing that breaks my heart the most. You've got Christians saying, once you become a Christian, these things can never bother you again. And then you've got the Christians over here who are being bothered again, thinking, well, then I must not really be a Christian, or Jesus doesn't really love me. And the fact of the matter is, yes, you can pray a prayer, you can become a Christian, you can go to heaven. But if you have contractual spirit spouse covenants that you signed or that a family member signed over for you, it's not that you lose your salvation or you can't be a real Christian. It's that you have to break those oaths. You have to disavow yourself of those things, which you can easily do through the blood and the name of Jesus Christ. But you have to know that even has to be done. And if all you get from your pastors is that's a bunch of stupidity, that, oh, you're into the new age and, all this stuff. If you can't even get someone to acknowledge that, yes, there are literal contracts in these other dimensional spaces that you have agreed to. And it doesn't mean you're going to lose your salvation and you're going to burn in hell, but it does mean that you are going to have warfare in your life that you can actually be rid of if you know how to disavow yourself of these things. So to answer your question, long answer to that question, I absolutely believe in soul contracts, and I believe that they happen in your sleep all the time.
Yes, I agree. And I think just to tack on to that then about the abductions, abductions happen because there has to be, again, we're back into this very legalistic format. There have to be permissions given somewhere along the line. It could be as simple as the Greada Treaty. If Eisenhower did sign some sort of treaty, or somebody somewhere along the way said, yes, you can take citizens of this country or that country. Why is it more prevalent in some places than others? It can be a family thing, a history thing, something that goes back generations, where a generational thing was done, where someone said, yes, I'm giving you permission to take, these generations of my family. So you have to really look for those things, and you have to identify them, and then you have to negate them, and you have to go through the process, because it doesn't just happen willy-nilly. It happens because somewhere along the line permissions are given. And people often ask me, but you were just a child, you had no control over that. And I'm like, yes, I was just a child when it happened, but somebody else gave that permission
Mhm.
for me to be taken. And then I had to deal with that later in life and be able to say, no, and deal with that and go through the process of doing that, which is another, where Vicky's book helped me a lot. And my spiritual belief system helped me a lot. Someone in there said, who am I saying the creator is? Well, I'm saying God is my creator. We are the God, the creator. And that's who who helped me and who helped me work through this. And that's how I was able to deal with that. So, and I'm trying to look at a lot of these questions and things that are coming through. And there's a lot of really good questions coming through. Thank you for putting them up on the screen as they come through. But I want to make sure I'm being clear enough, that people understand. Yeah. But it really does come down to that. It's a very legalistic permission-based society. And you have to make sure you're understanding that and not giving those permissions up, because you could do it without knowing that you've done it.
I believe it has been done on so many times. Perhaps like when, your birth certificate, saying that you are a certificate of X country, and then that country maybe has made some legal agreement. Like I said, I think it was Eisenhower or something like that, or has made this agreement, and by you being presented with this birth certificate, perhaps that's an agreement of saying, yes, I'm part of this, or it's your parents saying that you're part of this, because technically as a baby, you're not going to be able to say anything, or who knows, you signed up to Facebook and you agreed to the terms and condition. You never know who reads those terms and conditions. It really could. Yeah. It might be something hidden there that you don't even know. But I agree with you. We have made some covenants that we don't even know that we've made, and we've agreed to things that we can't. Now, I want to bring up something here. I know, and I think he has left though already. Was Beyond the Frequency 369 Caesar? He was saying that, he's like, what? We're bringing up movies now. Like I'm going to talk to Caesar, but like, Caesar, dude, there's truth in Hollywood. Like Hollywood has delivered so many truths to us, because it's the spiritual laws that they can't do it unless they show what they're doing. They have to put the cards out on the table. Yeah. But, because let's say you go to a stand and they have a sign saying, free apples, you eat an apple and it's poison and you die. Well, that's on him. But if they say they're poison apples, here, have one, and you eat it, well, that's your responsibility now. Now you've made that choice. So that's what they're doing on a lot of these movies. And I don't actually say like, oh, that director knows exactly what he's doing. I actually believe that there is some sort of possession, or like there's these as people call them, downloads. The downloads don't have to be all this positive love and light kind of thing. You could be connecting with a source that is not, that you think is helping you, and yeah, it could be helping you, but it's doing it to manipulate the rest of everyone else. And it's kind of like, yeah, we need to get our message out, so we're going to sneak it through here. Like you said, with the Matrix, there's so much truth in that. There is so much truth within the movies that we don't even realize. I also believe though that we have a connection from the past, the present, and the future. It's all happening at the same time, and some of us are able to connect through it through the ether. And we don't even know that we're making this connection, and we're kind of like writing what has already happened.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I will just say by way of the movies, with the predictive programming and whatnot, I can't speak to, well, I know Frank Baum was a theosophist. I know he astral projected. I know he and his wife and mother-in-law were very well aware of the tropes that they were putting into the Wizard of Oz series. I don't know so much about the Matrix. I know that the original Nosferatu, the 1922, the director and screen writer of that were card-carrying, unapologetic occultists, and they knew exactly what the story that they were telling, and they were putting in like the contract was written in the Enochian language, and some of that's in the newer movie too. But these people aren't just sitting down writing stories. A lot of them, we know, like Lovecraft, for example, the dream renderings of Lovecraft, that he was getting a lot of this stuff from the astral. There are so many interesting books that talk about all of the early literature, even in children's literature, of people who taught automatic writing and who very much were using the double entendres of language to tell innocent little children's stories, but we're actually embedding their entire cult dogma into it that only an adept would be able to tell. So the movies are I always tell people Christians have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the people outside of that worldview have the movie theaters. We go to churches to hear our gospel. They go to the movie theater to hear their gospel. They are preaching the gospel in many of these movies, especially the superhero ones that are about the Titans. And if you even just do the etymological research on where we get the word hero, it goes all the way back into the Akkadian, and it's talking about the Titans and the Watchers and the.
Oh, there she goes again.
After again. But yeah,
so Bryce had asked where he can get your book. I it's going to be in the show description, but also Karin, why don't you tell them, because I know you have to check out soon. So why don't we do that?
And just real quick to go back, and then I want to go back to what Vicky was saying. Yeah, you can go to lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.net. That's lamarzulli.com or .net. You can find Vicky's book and my book there. There's links on our social media for both of us on our social media. You can link into our websites or to L.A. Marzulli's website, and all of those should have links that get you to where you can get the book. And if you are having any trouble with that, you can email me. My website should be up there on the screen, KarinWilkinsonAuthor.com. You can email me at stolenseed@yahoo.com. So where did Vicky go? Did she drop off?
Yeah, she'll be back. She'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, don't leave me. No. So yeah, and so you can find mine and Vicky's there. And I think there is a special on his website for mine and Vicky's book together with a movie special or something with it, or another one of LA's books. So if you check that out, there's a special right now on the website, but I can't remember exactly what it is. And yeah, we a lot of times we will talk about what's going on in the movies and the things like that, because it helps people understand what's going on from a perspective that's easier to put into. It's easier to make it make sense sometimes, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and sometimes just bringing it into these movies are created for a reason, because there is, like she said, it is an opportunity to kind of teach and show what's going on another side of things, and on a potentially dangerous side of things. But it's also a good way to share how this works, because it really isn't far off what we're seeing in a lot of these things. Some of these movies really could be, that are out there as fiction, could really be nonfiction. So
I believe that there actually is a ton of nonfiction within these fictitious movies, but there's so much truth in all of these. And I know I had a guest on, and we started going into the movies. Rob Sullivan, I think his name was, or Robert Sullivan. But he did he's writing a book specifically on the Wizard of Oz, and he is coming. I know he said he would come back after he finished writing that, which was in the new year here. So I need to hit him up here and to talk further about that. But that's fantastic. Well, Karin, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you have to go. I do have a secondary. I have I don't want to say backup guest, because I hate saying that, but I have someone coming on as well to fill the void here. But Karin, why don't you tell everyone else? Oh, sir, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to tell you, Vicky's, her Wi-Fi went down completely. This always happens when we start talking about Anunnaki or anything like that.
Yeah, so the Nephilim and Anunnaki, of course.
Anything like that, we lose our signals, we lose our connections. So we were definitely getting over the target. So we know where to start the next conversation, and we want to come back when we have more time to do this. And we were really limited.
100%. I think so too. And next time we do this, my next guest who I'll be bringing on, I'd love to have him on as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Brad from the Awaken podcast. I know everybody knows Brad in our chat there. But Karin, why don't you wrap it up in the context of saying, like, tell everybody where they can find you, and Vicky as well, because I know you guys are kind of in the same area. So why don't you do that for her?
And you can see my book behind me, and Vicky's is They Only Come Out at Night. Both of these books, like I said, are available at lamarzulli.com or .net. Her website is VickyJoyAnderson.com, and mine is KarinWilkinsonAuthor.com. So if you're having any trouble, find us on social media. If you find Rye on social media, you can find us in there too. If you're having any trouble finding any of that, you get to one of us, you can get to either one of us through the other, and send me an email or send me a message on if you go through my website, you can get to my email, and my email is stolenseed@yahoo.com. You can just directly use that as well. We love to hear from you. If we didn't get to your questions, I would be happy to answer them, either, Vicky and I, through our email. So you can send them that way as well, or send them on social media, because then we can share them through social media. If you just send us, or we can post it on social media. If you send us a question, we will happily do that as well.
Definitely. I know you guys were rubbing Caesar from Beyond the Frequency the wrong way, which is fine. It's great to be challenged, and you can see that he was being challenged. And he was and he wasn't being disrespectful, but of course he wants to post his stuff, and I'm like, we're in the middle of our conversations. It's hard to answer all the questions, but no disrespect to him or to you guys as well. Everybody has their different points of view. I think he was thinking that when Vicky was talking about like being in the astral, that everything was negative, everything was demon-esque, but it's not.
No. And I think what we're addressing is when problems arise, and when the evil parts arise, and when the negative arises. Because where do you think all that comes from? I mean, you're talking about two different things, but and my last thing I'll put in here before I completely sign off and let you keep going is, when a bad guy shows up and someone's coming out there to rob you or steal your car or to do whatever, they don't advertise that. They come across as smooth talking and trustworthy, the worst of the worst. They come across as someone you can trust.
Yes.
Otherwise there would not be all these TV shows about the serial killer who lived next door, or I married a murderer, or all of these things. You just don't know. And if you think people are deceptive, they are much the ones in the astral, the ones who were created before us, the ones who are the sons of God, or the Nephilim, the angels, whatever you want to call them, the Nephilim, which are the progeny of the fallen, and or the angels who sin. Go to Genesis 6 and all that. They are brilliant. They've been around a lot longer than we have. They're smart. They're suave. They're sneaky. They will trick you and deceive you. So, you might be getting someone who says, I am your spirit guide in the astral realm, and I'm just here to help you. You need to know, and you're not going to know for sure. And that's why it's dangerous. And that's where the danger can come in, is that you don't know. And it's somewhere that you have to be really careful. And I think so, while we were addressing one side of things, there is always a light in the dark. We have that balance. There is truth to that as well. So, and we're happy to be challenged and have someone come forward and give us the tough questions. Those are the ones we want, because, those are the things that we want to challenge ourselves as well. And we want to know.
I agree.
And I'm always learning. I don't know everything. Vicky will be the first to tell you she doesn't either. So we really want to expand on that too. So thank you so much, Rye. I love being here. I'm speaking for Vicky too, and I say that, and I know, we're good friends on and off air, and can't wait for next time. And
I agree. Best of luck, Karin. Make sure you keep me, I'll keep you in my prayers, and we'll keep in contact. And we'll set something up, and maybe like 3-4 months if you're good then, or even shorter.
Oh yeah, I'll be back on before then. They're telling me I need 3 months to recover. I'm not taking that long. Give me 4 to 6 weeks, y'all, and I'll be back. I'll be sitting here in 4 weeks if I have my way. So I will be back before you know it. So thanks again. Y'all have a blessed night. It was such a joy to be here. You have a great live audience, and look forward to next time.
Fantastic. Yes. And everybody in the audience, please stick around. We got another guest lined right up right away. So Karin, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That was Karin Wilkinson and Vicky Joy Anderson. Vicky didn't get to say goodbye. She got booted out because, Anunnaki don't like her talking about nothing. So they kicked her out. So, and as we're bringing on a regular, everybody knows Brad from the Awakened podcast. So I'll be bringing him on here in about 20 seconds. For all of you who have been posting in the chat, please keep it going. Make sure you hit that like. And if you have any questions, please put them in all caps. When I bring Brad on, we're probably going to talk, and we might, bring, if you have any questions you want to pose to us, we'll make sure we try to answer them. I see that I like Ike. I saw that. I was like, who is I like Ike? So I actually checked your profile, and then I was like, oh, it's Poncho. So I saw that before you posted that. So, I check out all my guests, all my viewers. No, I'm not crazy like that. Just every now and then. All right. let's bring Brad onto the stage.
What
Brad,
up?
how you doing, man? Doing?
Hey, man, how y'all doing?
Fantastic. Yeah, I had lined this live up with Vicky and Karin, and they both had to. They both told me they can only do an hour, which is fine. I am totally cool with that. But I was messaging you saying, hey, you want to come in for the second half of the show and slide in? And of course, it's great to have you on. And Caesar was posting some questions. He was, I think we're rubbing Caesar the wrong way with,
Caesar.
Vicky and Karin. And, I'd be more than happy to have him come on, and we could have a chat and just because it's good to have the counter argument. It's good to have that.
Yeah, I think too. Just there doesn't really need to be an argument. Just let people say what they feel is right and what comes off as their truth, right? Because for me, hey BJ, how you doing? Thank you, Colt. I appreciate that. Hi, Spirit and Truth, Wendy.
Everybody's like, hi, Brad.
Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah, I just think that everybody has a piece of the puzzle, right? And we can add something in some way and take what like Caesar has a wealth of knowledge of Anunnaki stuff and a whole bunch of Caesar's got a really intelligent mind when it comes to a lot of frequency stuff. Like he's awakened like me, like you, like a lot of us are, and we're just getting we're tuning in. I don't want to use like his thing of the frequent, beyond the frequency, but we have different frequencies. We're getting kind of different messages in some way from somewhere else. It feels like, like not that sounds like mystical or something. I don't know if that's what the case is, but it really does. It really does happen. Like we do get something, downloads or whatever you want to call them, from somewhere. Like this has happened from musicians and all kind of people throughout history. But we all get our messages in some way, and God speaks to us in different ways. And that's what I'll say to that. But yeah, it's easy to ruffle people's feathers when you speak about this kind of stuff. People will give me negative reviews, and you and I have talked about that, just because they didn't agree with what I said or what a guest said. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. I did listen, and there were some things I disagreed with Vicky and Karin about, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong. That just means that they have a different perspective and they're looking at things through a different lens. I had a great woman named Emily Moyer. She's been like a muse to me on my show, and she reminded me that maybe God put me in the perspective of as a photographer in the military to see things from a different lens, quite literally. And I think that's where what I kind of bring to the table all the time is let's look at this from a different perspective, right? Just like I was telling Topher Gardner on an episode I did with him recently, because we were talking about this, and I was in tech school right after you get out of basic training. They send you to tech school to learn your job, and I went to this graphic design class because I was a photographer, right? So they sent me to graphic design, and they made me draw a Nike check. And I couldn't draw it. It was, trying to get that curve perfect was hard. And then the teacher came over there and he like turned my paper around. He's like, "Now try it now." And I did. And it was like perfect swoop. And I was like, I just got to look at it from a different angle, right? It's like different perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like maybe if it's not working one way, turn your paper around and try it a different way. And that was exactly what happened. And I've lived my life like that ever since, man. So
Interesting. You got to find the hidden path that's not there. Like there's always another way to get there. It's not, you don't have to follow the same path as everyone else. We're all looking to get in the same direction. It just, you don't have to be going this way and seeing everything that everyone else is seeing. You can be going a different way and seeing everything else different. And I do agree to a point as well. And I disagree a little bit with, like, no, I guess I don't disagree. Like we are all, there's our spirit guides, there's our connections to the other side, like there's the ethereal connections, but I believe we have to be very careful. Our discernment has to be very high, because we could be interacting with something that, and I agree with her too. It's like, the next door neighbor could be that serial killer, and everyone's like, well, he was a really nice guy, and that's the point, is that, ultimate evil is not going to be, like a guy dressed all in black, with fangs and gore and stuff like that. That's not the ultimate evil, because they're trying to get you, they're trying to win you over. That's the key. And I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to someone recently, Nathan Reynolds, actually. I was just talking to Nathan Reynolds about that. There's that joke about the dark side from Star Wars, come to the dark side, we have cookies. Like that is what they're trying to do, to dumb it down to the lamest, to the most easiest way. It's like, yeah, come over here, we got this, we got that. And it's kind of like a coercion, but not really. It's kind of like they want to persuade you. Persuasion is always better than force.
Whenever in the I don't even know what you would call it. It's moments. I don't even know if you call it downloads, but it's moments of clarity for me sometimes when I have like, oh, it's a realization, right? Or, I guess that's why, again, I call it the Awaken podcast, is because I've come to a lot of realizations in my life. And one of those things is like, I have two young kids and a beautiful wife. And sometimes I'll just sit there and I go, man, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I think those are kind of like the downloads that those are the ways that I know when God's talking to me, right? It's like, I know, like I'll walk outside and then I'll just look and I'll be like, oh, it's just a beautiful day. And I'm just enjoying the day. That's whenever I know that's a message from God. Like God is all around us. God is within us.
Yeah.
Right?
God is going to be that highest emotion, the highest frequency, that we're looking for, that like the one where you feel love and there's no like ulterior motives or anything like that. Like it's the highest one, and if it's something like, ooh, like this is going to be great because I'm going to get a lot of money and I'm going to, I have to weasel my way around. But, even though that gives you that high, well, that isn't the highest emotion. That's kind of like that rush, but it's more of an adrenaline rush. And you just got to be careful of what you're hearing and what you're feeling. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like we got to connect and to quote the New Age, got to connect back to source. Make sure you establish that connection. Which is
I'm going to do an episode where I try to hone in on and make this very clear about how I think on this, because I usually am all over the place. And I'm sorry to interrupt you a while ago. I didn't mean to, man. You know how I like to talk, but I was listening to you on
all like to talk.
Well, dude, I listened to you on Nephilim Death Squad, and I was like, fuck, I need to shut up and let him talk more. He's fucking way cooler at this, way better at this than I am. So, but yeah, God is light, man. And that's what it is. Like we are made in his image. So we are light beings as well. We are, dispersed colors of the rainbow of God, right? We're pixels. If you look at us like a pixel screen, that's what we are. We're pixels. We're all pixelated. We're just a bunch of little tiny photons, little quantum packets of light that are strung together to make up this rainbow colored body that we live in. And I think that when light speaks to you, you know it. That's just it. And so like all these things in the sky, I'm with Karin and Vicky 100% on that. All these things in the sky are demonic to me. Anything that tries to present itself as like, oh, we're light, we're positive, we can heal you, and all this stuff is like
one of the also I'd say like listeners as well, Susan Lineberger would totally agree with you. But do you think all are demonic, or do you feel that there is some that are not?
That's a hard thing for me to say because I just don't know. And I think I will say that God is already in us, right? This is how I see it. Like God is already in us. Like we just know when God presents himself to us. There doesn't have to be some explanation of, oh, I'm here as your friend. We're here to like, there's none of that.
So they don't have to put on like an aerial show kind of thing.
Right.
Is what you're saying. They don't have to. You don't have to go to the the naval base and see like them flying around. You kind of just know they're there. You don't have to see their presence to know they're there. But then why do angels present themselves? Like angels would come down and present themselves. Like is that?
Well, I mean, I'm not fully. I mean, obviously this crosses into Vicky's. She's a biblical scholar, so like she can tell you more about the different types of angels. There's 9 different types. And they all have specific jobs, but I don't recall any of them presenting themselves in the way of like, I am this and I am here to do that. And, I just, for anything that has ever done that is sketchy to me, right? Except for like, listen, I mean, the Bible is the only book we can really refer to for these kinds of truths. So, God presented himself in the form of a burning bush, right? There was Jesus' transformation when he was him and Elijah and Moses, presented himself to some of the disciples. So there's different ways that God has come in form of the best I don't think we can see God. It's like the movie Dogma, kind of, with like Alanis Morissette. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yep.
Right. With Jay and Silent Bob. Like, you can't hear the voice of God. You can't, you'll know it if you understand it, but pure God, pure light, you just can't see it on this side. And so I think that anything that tries to present itself as light, even if it's angels or whatever that they say, again, there's a Bible verse about this where it says, the devil will try to present himself as an angel of light, right?
Well, because he is, because Lucifer is the bringer of light.
Well,
is the light bringer, I mean. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure how. There's a lot of debate about, is Lucifer the devil or Satan or the evil one? There's a lot of debate about. There's even talk about the king of Tyre being this Lucifer type being, right? And it's like, I don't know. Again, all that stuff doesn't matter. I don't care who the evil one is. He's the opposite of light, right? And so, like, for me, just like you said, that frequency that you have to be on that God frequency. Like, the goal for us is to, we don't understand how truly powerful we are. We don't know our full potential because we've never expressed it. We've never fully lived to our full potential of godlike beings in the way that we are light beings, right? We're not God. We're just little scoops, little teacups of God, right? Little fractals of little broken mirrors of, if you shatter a mirror, we're just a little tiny piece of that mirror of God. But I do think that we have a lot of power in the sense that you can rise to the level of like higher consciousness and higher vibrations. And to me, that is just pure light and love, like just loving things and people and being present. And, I was just talking about with my kids and stuff. I mean, I can look at them and just literally know that is God, that love, and that, like, oh my God, that feeling can't be reproduced in any way. And nobody can tell you what that is. And nobody can tell you why you love something and what that, ask a kid what love is, and they'll tell you these same things. They'll tell you, oh, it's God. It's, it's light. And it's funny because they have that almost tainted,
like untainted. Yeah. They
have this like untainted view of that. And we have just gotten far away from that. Our vibrations have literally like shifted down the road, and we have this constant stream of stuff that affects that, that ability. Can I give you a good example real quick?
Yeah.
I got this plasma ball because I'm talking about, plasma portals and stuff like that. But I wanted to show you because I was showing my kids the other day. So this plasma ball, Smithsonian, by the way, makes these, ironically, right? So this plasma ball, this is exactly how our brains operate. There's this like these little nodes right here at the end. Those are like the brain cells that are, the synaptic connections in our brains. So like, if you picture this as our brain, like, you see how it's kind of, it has a steady stream of like connections, right? But if you take something that's electric or energetic and you put a charge or affect that stream in some way, then you start to see all these things kind of morph into something else. You see how chaotic it is, right? It's a lot more chaotic. That's my point. It's like, that's how our brains operate. If something affects that brain pattern, those wave patterns, then we're crazier. We're off. We're like, that's where the idea of the moon, if you believe there's a real moon out there, pulling on our brains and affecting our constant, those little synaptic, those little filament, those little connections in our brains. And I think that that's a good way to look at it, because, porn and movies and all these other things, man, that's what affects our brains. And we just have gotten so far away from that. And it's true. We all know we've gotten far away from it. And it's funny that a lot of this stuff, like, and I'm in the state of South Carolina, and, porn is banned in the state of South Carolina now, pretty much.
Really?
And so, like, yeah, things are moving in a direction of like, it's so odd. I mean, CEOs are stepping down and prime ministers are stepping down, and CEOs of big companies who have been committing these heinous crimes against humanity with censorship and all these other things. They're out there repenting, essentially. Oh yeah, we did do that. I'm sorry. It was not us. It promised it was not us. Why are they doing all that? It's like there is dude, I talked about this before, but
okay, just hang on. I want to stop you there before you go too far. We go too far away. But you're talking about those plasma balls, and you're saying our brains, okay? And that stirred something in my brain. I'm like, I had a dream similar to something like this. Okay, so I think for everyone who knows that I write down all my dreams, and I'm going to read one and tell me what you feel about this. Okay, so this was March 5th, 2014. I call it like a spiritual alien type dream. I said I could see people's thoughts and I could read them. It was so cool seeing them. It was like a white yellowish energy wave which was surrounded by pink haze, and that like the thoughts would interact with objects too. The energy would encompass the object as if it went through and around it. The energy was very similar to those glass balls that have the plasma type electricity that radiates out. And when you put your hand on it, the beams of plasma electricity are attracted to it. And so because I could read the thoughts, that plasma type energy would come to me, such as putting your hand on the glass. I know it was, and I said I was on a spaceship and I was very similar to Spock from Star Trek. But it's very interesting that you said that our minds are like that. But, I had this dream 10 years ago that was seeing that as well. Like our thoughts are going out and kind of like wrapping around things. And it's like, are we receptive to those as well? Because our thoughts our thoughts are going out, and like I said, they're wrapping around objects and going on other objects, kind of like feeling out everything. And if we're receptive to it, we can bring that in, and perhaps then we can. That's how people are able to read other people's minds, or have that psychic connection as well. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, it's funny you had that 10 years ago, a decade ago, and here we are talking about that. It's funny how these things, again, that was something that came to you, right, in some way, and you felt like you felt the need to write it down, and possibly for this exact reason, to help bring about. And this is where I differed. By the way, Vicky Joy Anderson and Karin Wilkinson are amazing, like that, like super intelligent. I'll never chastise them or criticize anything they say, for sure, 100%. Vicky Joy's book, they come out at night, ties into my plasma portals theory, actually, about like why they do come out at night. So it's pretty interesting. So shout out to Vicky for that. But yeah, only thing I differ with was when they think that I can't remember exactly what they said, I'm sorry, but it was more or less like they don't agree that this is like they think this is going into a bad direction, like an age for something bad, the kingdom for the evil for the next 2,000 years or whatever it is, the golden age. Okay, I actually don't see it like that. I see it as the opposite of that. I do feel like there's something changing that is coming for the better, right? I don't interact. Listen, I never see aliens. I never see UFOs or orbs or anything. I don't want to see them. I think they know to stay away from me because I just don't believe they're bullshit, right? It's like they can't approach me, right? And so my general feeling on this is that why is all this stuff happening right now? Like we keep, I'll read what I was going to read a while ago.
Yeah,
all right,
please.
So my awakened definition that I have on the front page of my website, there's a list of different meanings for the word awaken, and the last two I'll read to you. It says become aware of or come to a realization of, and then another one is make someone aware of something for the first time. And now I will go to the definition of revelation, right? Definition of revelation is a surprising and previously unknown fact, especially one that is made known in a dramatic way. And then another one is the divine or supernatural disclosure to humans of something relating to human existence or the world. So revelation and awaken is similar terms. So what I think is coming, or what I think is happening right now, is the world around us is being revealed. The evil that's been, lurking in the shadows beyond our our perception is coming into vision because we are vibrating. We are vibrating on a higher level, and we are sort of going into a new age, if you will, of something good, I think, for humanity. Because again, man, all this stuff it's so weird how things just all of a sudden, it's so weird how all of a sudden, they're talking about banning red dye 40 and all these other different things, going after pharmaceutical companies. I mean, the things that we've been talking about for decades now, right? And all of a sudden, it's like the collective consciousness is coming together and fighting back that darkness with pure light. And we're winning, man. I mean, that's what I sense. That's what I feel. And that's the only way I can feel. I don't think that it's a negative thing we're heading into. I feel like because of all these little victories we have going for us right now, you know.
Well, and I agree with you, but I believe that because we're getting closer to that time, that also the negative is pulling out all the stops. They're breaking the rules. Okay, so they are, because there is spiritual rules that they're supposed to be following, but they're like, it's when you're on your last leg, you know. You just kind of like when you're backed into a corner, more, you know, so to speak. You know, it's kind of like I've got nothing else to do now. I'm going to start breaking these rules. But when they start breaking the rules, that's when they can start. You know, things can actually happen to them. You know, there's spiritual laws that they have to follow, and I believe for most part they were following them. But I feel that more and more that things are coming out that aren't supposed to. Things that are happening, these negative things that are happening, aren't supposed to be happening, and so we're going to see, like you said, I feel that we are also coming into this. I don't want to say golden age, but I do believe that, you know, things are going to get better. I actually feel it's going to get better, really good. Then it's going to drop. It's going to get really shitty, and then things are going to get better again. That is my prediction. And you guys can hold me to that as well. You know, that's what I feel. Things are going to get pretty good. Then we're going to see almost like I don't want to say a rebellion, but you're going to see a lot of people fighting the good. And perhaps then we'll actually, and I know you talk about the awakened and being awake. Perhaps then finally we'll see these people actually waking up, because I believe there's a lot of possession going on right now, a lot. When people don't even realize, you know, there is a lot more than what we realize, and we've come to the point in time where we have to accept it. We have to accept, and I'm not saying. How do I say this? Not all mental illness is possession, but all possession is mental illness, has mental illness, if that makes sense. And I believe that it's coming up more. And right now we're in this kind of, or we were in this very weird kind of place that we have to accept other people's mental illnesses. Like I know I have issues. I'm sure everyone else has issues, but I don't expect you to deal with my issues. You know, I don't expect you to be like, no, you have to put up with me because I'm an a-hole, or I have, you know, I can't concentrate on us talking, and so I'm off in la la land, and it's, you got to deal with that. No, those are my faults that I need to deal with. I should not be putting that responsibility, that yoke onto your shoulders. You know, that's mine. So it's kind of something we need to, we have to deal with.
I think Cat Williams said it best. This is how he sees it. That you gotta, just like when you peel a scab off, when you first peel that scab off, it's going to bleed for a little while, and then it'll get better, right? Then it'll heal, which is weird, quoting Cat Williams as some prophetic guy, right?
Yeah.
But it's just strange timing for me that, and by the way, 100% demonic. All these things are, all right. Don't get it twisted. That's what they are. They're 100% demonic, in my opinion. I don't think there's any good to them. I just don't. I don't feel that. I don't sense that. I don't get because again, God will present himself.
As soon as there's any form of abduction, any form, anything at all, any violation of your autonomy, that is not good. Like, good will not do anything will not violate you in any way. Okay, it just won't. But if there's any form of violation of your autonomy, of yourself, it's not good.
Well, I think they can possess you for sure, but that you get their permission, right? It's illegal. Vicky Joy has talked about this 1,000 times, right? They're a legal bunch, like she said earlier. They have to have your permission to, they're parasites. They have to have a host, and so they have to have your permission in this world. Now, I've heard, what's his name from? God, the guy from what's
Ernest
the famous UFO? No, dude. Oh my God! I just was looking up Jim Varney before I came on the show. That's
really?
So weird. That's so weird. You mentioned that.
I just told you about that plasma ball with misconnecting their thoughts, man.
God, dude, what is the guy?
Greer,
80s,
Stephen Greer.
No, the 80s guy, UFO guy from
what? Like it's UFO? No,
God,
not the History
name.
Channel guy.
No, the guy, the Element
like the reptilians.
Guy. No, the Element 114 guy, the guy with the glass. Bob Lazar. I mean, Lazar. Bob Lazar.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know why I blanked.
What did I say? Stephen Greer? Did I say Stephen Greer?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's a UFO guy too, right? I mean,
okay.
He thinks these things are good. He thinks these things are all fucking they're all loving and friendly to us all. And I don't believe that shit one bit, dude. No, Bob Lazar had talked about this this religious manuscript that he had come across or something like that, and basically that humans are vessels for these things, or like bodies. And this again ties back into the plasma portals idea that I have, that these things are pure consciousness and etheric. They live in the void of that plasma ball that I just showed you, right? They live in that space, not the filament space, not the pink space, not the blue, not the purple filaments, but they live in those empty spots. They are the 99%. If we're living in a 1%, if we are living in this little tiny sliver of visible light, right, the spectrum, that means that we are living in this little teeny tiny 1% of the known universe around us. That means that 99% of the world around us we can't see or perceive, and they exist. And that void that I just showed you, that is the upside down of us, right? That is to me, that's and listen, I can't be too sure of anything in life because I don't know any of this stuff. But what I will say is that that dark space, that void, that's colder. That's actually, hell is actually cold. It's dark. There's nothing there. These things cannot take shape. They are etheric. They are nonlinear intelligence. They're nonlinear supercomputers that exist in this, let's just call it a soup, right? Like they live in this soup, or they are the soup, and then we can form into something solid out of that soup, and they hate us for that. And so they need stuff like metallic craft to shield their etheric bodies, their etheric plasma state from the light, from God's light. So they need to hide in underwater bases. They need to hide in underwater, underground bases and mountains and all these other things.
So if you believe hell is cold, is hell in Antarctica?
Well, I think that they live in Antarctica, or there's something in Antarctica because it's cold there, right? There's not a lot of, now there's allegedly the sun that stays 24 hours, but there's the shield of snow and ice and things that keeps them sort of together because they're etheric. Their bodies, when light hits that plasma, it disperses again, and then it reforms once the light goes away, which is why they come out at night. And then they find these magnetic fields that come from ley lines or telluric currents. They hit those magnetic fields, and then they morph into whatever they want to in this reality. That magnetic field is the only way that they can change shape into something. Now their metallic bodies is what shields them from the light during the day, right? Notice that you don't see orbs during the day flying around. You'll see craft. You'll see like metal bodies, and those metal bodies will shield them from the light. Yeah, and so I think
that would explain why, like Vicky Joy's book, they only come out at night,
right?
It's because there's no light.
Exactly. It's cold. There's no light. They fit right in at night because
Yep.
there is no sunlight. There's nothing so plasma is coming from the sun, or this ionic energy, this it's called proticity. This positive electricity that's coming from the sun, it hits the ionosphere and creates the air glow that we see up in the sky. And that air glow is a constant, dispersion, if you will, of ionosphere, of plasma that's in the ionosphere. And so what we're seeing is those entities kind of dispersed all the time. That's what we see when we look up in the sky and see that blue color or the pink or the red or whatever it is. Yeah. We're seeing that interaction. That's God's light dispersing these things. And again, when the sun goes down, that's when all this stuff happens. That's when you'll see these plasmic things coming in. And it's always right around sundown. It's always right when the sun goes down, dusk, that these things start to shift into morph into our reality, because they're plasma, they're etheric, and it takes a vibration. It takes some sort of a frequency to get them formed together.
Okay.
And to form a complex plasma. Mm-hmm. And then
we're all frequency and vibration, so that just makes sense, to bring it into that.
So there are people who do these ritualistic incantations and chants and things like that these Native American chants or whatever, and that's what brings these things. That's what raises the frequency that allows these things to form, and then they hit these different magnetic fields, these little vortexes of magnetic energy, and then they just. And so what I think actually happened with the Stonehenge and all these other stone circles that we see all around the world, I think that these things tricked them back in the day. They tricked our ancestors back in the day to make them think that, hey, we're good. Why don't you create these little stone circles? Because what stones will do, these stones will
reverberate the sounds.
They will encircle the magnetic waves, the telluric currents, to kind of trap them into this little vortex. Instead of having these magnetic fields that are dispersed all over the place, and they're fleeting, right? So if they're fleeting, these things can't just go fly into one easily. But if there's a magnetic vortex that's constant, like a stone circle, like a Stonehenge or Avebury or wherever, they can hit these things easily and turn into something. So,
interesting. I like that. They bounce off, like when you go into a certain area in Chichen Itza, like the guides will show you this all like clap, and it reverberates around, that area. That sound. It's very interesting. So there's always like a guide there when you're there clapping away, and the sound is kind of like bouncing back and forth because it's very important. So that kind of adds to it a little bit. Interesting. And I was gonna say something else, but I totally slipped my mind here. But and I said this on NDS as well, but I'll say it here as the Bible. People get turned off by the Bible, because they think it's all religion, and they're like, oh, it's religious. It's a history book. I want to make sure especially the Old Testament. It is a history book. Okay. And you can take from it what you want. A lot of us take it as the word of God because, it is showing us those things, but it is a history book. And if you don't believe it, you need to look further, because there is so many other cultures and ancient cultures that will attest to it, especially with the flood. The worldwide flood is something you will find in just about every culture as well. So it's really interesting, and if you're not into religion, that's fine. Treat it as a history book and take a look at it. Just go through it and start to look at it, and you'll come into some sort of enlightenment with it as well.
Yeah, this is in John 14. I'll just say a couple things, because I just had a great guy named Logan Barone on my show. We were talking about God within, and he used to be a minister, and he kind of had this. He studied the Bible. He went to Bible school. I mean, he went to Bible college. He was going to be a minister. And then he kind of had this realization that, like, wait a minute, these same things can be found in different religious texts for thousands of years. So there's a lot of stuff that's in the Bible that is in all kinds of different religions. And one of the central ideas is that God is within. And there is a lot of evidence. There's overwhelming evidence that says that God is within, and one of them, for example, is, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be with you. And then there's a lot of, again, in Luke 17, the kingdom of God is within you. This is Jesus talking to the Pharisees. And when the Pharisees on being asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, the coming of the kingdom of God is not something that can be observed, nor will people say, here it is, or there it is, because the kingdom of God is in your midst. It means it's in you. God is in you. Because
that's
God's
what I was saying.
in.
I said that earlier. God is within all of us.
Yes.
I mean, the kingdom of heaven is within all of us.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful.
Yeah, and I think people forget that. And like Jesus he said this a lot in the Bible. And there's talks about God within all throughout the Bible. So, but when you tell people that you are a fragment of God, or whatever, people don't like to hear that. But it's not coming from me, it's coming from the Bible.
Yeah.
We're the living water and the Spirit.
And I see Jojo asked a question. She's like, how much truth is in there? And it's yeah, I would say there is lots, but you're dealing with people who interpret things differently. And then of course there's the telephone game as well. Some people will write things down, or they'll tell other people, and then they'll write it down. So there can be like misinterpretations. And I don't want to say that per se, like as in like, but there is a lot of truth in there. Like when we start to go back, like when we start talking about the fallen angels and the Nephilim, I find that fascinating. Like Genesis 6. Sorry, it's really, really interesting. And then you start to follow that breadcrumb, like L.A. Marzulli when he took the DNA of the Practice skulls. The maternal DNA takes us back to around. Where's Mount Hermon located again? What is that in the Middle East again?
Yeah, it's on the 33rd. It's right in between like Lebanon, Syria, and in Israel.
Yes. So the maternal DNA took us back to that location, into like the Middle East, in that area. So it puts credence to, well, that's where the fallen ones came down, was Mount Hermon, right? And strangely enough, there's a NATO base on top of Mount Hermon now. What? So, but it's kind of like you start to look at these things and you start to piece together the evidence, and you can't deny it all. Like, okay, so where did these, and the Paracas skulls, like people will say, oh no, that's deformation of the skulls, like that's them trying to elongate the skulls using boards and clamping, I think is what they called it. But you can change the shape of a skull. You can by doing something continuously over years. You can change the shape, but you cannot change the size or the volume, right? That you cannot. Right. And these skulls, the volume is much larger. The place where the cervical, like the spinal cord, enters into the cranium is completely different. The ocular sets are much larger as well. So where do these come from? Oh, we can trace them back to around that location in the Middle East, and that lays credence to them being Nephilim. Like we're trying to look for the answers, and there is breadcrumbs all around us, but yet we want to deny those. We try to talk them out. We try to discredit them. We try to be like, no, that's something else. That's something else. But why not? Why can't it be that?
Well, again, I came into this conversation and I said, you asked me about these things. These are 100% demonic. We are, if God wants to speak to us, he's in us. He's all around us, right? He can speak to us and we just know. It's a gnosis. It's a knowing. And I'll point to a couple more scriptures in the Bible where it says in Colossians 1:27, it says, to them God chose to make known how great among the Gentiles are the riches of the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And in Romans 8, verse 9 through 11, it says, "You, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If in fact the Spirit of God dwells in you. Anyone who does not have the Spirit of Christ does not belong to him. But if Christ is in you, although the body is dead because of sin, the Spirit is life because of righteousness." I just wanted to highlight those because of what I was saying earlier about you will just know when God is around. These things aren't, these beings in the sky aren't your friends. They want to live. We're in the 1%, and they want to live in this 1%.
What you're saying, so what you're saying is you're not sitting there. Is that good? Is that bad? You just know,
right?
That's good. You know when it's good when it's there, right? And and like, I know not all my viewers and listeners are followers of the Bible. Even myself, I'm not
I'm not either.
I'm finding my way back. I'm finding my way back into it because I'm coming from it from a different angle now. Like I was born and raised staunch Catholic, like it was church every Sunday and sometimes even more than that, as well. And I won't go too far because I'm sure everybody's heard that many times. But then I went away from the religion. I went away from the church, and now I'm approaching it, like you said, looking at things through a different lens. Actually, let's bring it back to that. Is that I'm approaching things differently. I'm approaching this book not as a. I don't know how I used to look at the Bible. It was just a thing that we're supposed to revere and not really understand it to the depth that we are, or to use it as like an actual history book, like I said. And now I'm kind of approaching it in that concept that it's like a key. It's a key to a lot of things that are going on right now in this world. And if you use that key to start like piecing things together and start putting all these puzzles together, it lays credence to so much more.
Jesus had his night. I mean, his time in the wilderness, right? 40 days where he came to this, he had to come to this again as well. He had to have his own awakening, his own mystical or spiritual awakening in a way to realize that, oh, my mission here is to help enlighten the world. And so there's a lot of this sounds very new age, I understand. But again, if you go to the scripture on all of this, you'll see that he's talking about enlightenment and how God is light and light is in you and spirit, and you are the light of life and all these different things, right? He's talking about waking up to the idea that God is you. You are God. God is within you. Everybody around, that all your neighbors, they are you, right? We're all just here experiencing.
Are they really, or are they NPCs?
I think some are NPCs for sure. Background players for sure. Yeah. Empty vessels.
Have you ever seen, and I know they say, I've heard this multiple times though, but have you ever seen your neighbor bring in groceries?
Yeah. I haven't, but I honestly don't. I mean,
you're not watching your neighbor 24/7.
Yeah, I'm not checking them out. Well, when you live in an apartment complex, you do see stuff like that though. That's the thing. It's I just don't know that I ever paid attention.
Speaking of which, did you ever see the guy that lived in an empty apartment complex all by himself?
No, I just saw a kid that lives in a school by himself now. That's pretty interesting.
Okay, so this guy, there's cars in the parking lot, but they never move. They've never moved. And people put door knockers, those are the or door hangers, to sell Chinese food or something. He went around to everyone and they're all still on the doors, and none of them have. What? Sorry?
What state or country was this in?
This is in the US, and this is a guy on TikTok, and he was posting this, and it was he was the only one living in this apartment complex, though it appeared that there was many more people living in this. And it was it was getting conspiracy, Men in Black kind of style kind of thing. I don't know. If anybody in the chat has heard about that guy, I know he's on TikTok. I've only, came across his post a couple of times, and I did find him a little fascinating, but I never followed him. But if anybody saw that, post a link on there.
Well, I will say this. I own my own company, so I work from home. So I'm out and about during the day all the time. I can go to the mall during Christmas shopping during the day and all this other stuff. And I will say that at all times of day, there are people on the roads all the time. All at night, at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday, there's different times where are people coming and going from? I don't know. I don't fully understand this. And I have a friend named Jeremy that we talk about this all the time, how you pull into a gas station and there was nobody at the gas station. And as soon as you get there, all of a sudden there's like 50 people at the gas station. Or you go to pull out of like a grocery store, and then all of a sudden, like the roads were clear until you get up to the stop sign. And then all of a sudden there's 100 cars coming by. And you're like, where did this come from? Where did 100 cars come from at one time? And it just feels like these characters are kind of put in your life to affect you in some way, like to affect your, you know, your mind or your frequency or your vibrations or whatever. You know, they are put in at those moments to like, hey, throw, you know, they're like, all right, you go now. And then the background actor comes in, you know what I mean? And like they play their role, and you're like, dude, I had this conversation with the on Schizo News Network the other day with the what realities are and all those guys, man. And you know, it was a good conversation because it really does feel like that. It feels like there's so many empty vessels out there. And I think that's true. I think that's probably true. But I think that we can kind of leave our vessel and come back in anytime. You mentioned it before too, when you're, you know, running or something like that.
Oh yeah.
You left your body.
When I had
and,
my
yeah.
OBE. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You had an out of body experience, right? So
well, and I was just talking to you today about that. I was listening to Blurry Creatures. They had someone on talking about mermaids and things like that. And then I was talking to Nathan Reynolds as well. And for those who don't know who Nathan Reynolds is, I had him on. He was an ex-Luciferian of sorts. He was born and raised into that cult, we'll say. But they're talking about how they would drown people or take them to near-death experiences. For one of the points was to be able to have the soul leave the body, to have an out-of-body experience, an OBE, and to get it into the astral realm. And they would do this multiple times, and it was so that it became second nature to go into the astral. You know, like for some people who've never had a out-of-body experience or astral traveled, you know, it's very, very difficult. But if your body is being trained, and it, you know, it doesn't mean that you're sitting there in meditation and elevating, you know, that's the, you know, kind, nice way. They're like forcing this and, you know, doing it, of course, a very sadistic, evil type way. But that's what we were talking about, is that, you know, popping yourself out of your body. It's crazy. It's very crazy. I have to ask you a question. I know I'm kind of talking all crazy all over, but why were you Googling Jim Varney?
Dude, I just, well, the guy, there was a guy who died today, and it came across my news feed, and I was like, I don't remember him from any of the Hey Vern movies. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
The Ernest Goes to Camp movies and all those things. And he was like 96 or something like that. And I looked him up, and I was like, oh, I've seen that guy. He usually takes his teeth out, his false teeth out, and he has like a very scrunched up face, like a Popeye type face, right? Whenever he's in the movie. So I was like, I remember that guy. And then I looked up Jim Varney, and I was looking at like when he died, and I couldn't believe it was, you know, he was like only 50 when he died and all this stuff. And he died from lung cancer. So that was it takes me down weird rabbit holes, man. You know, like sometimes I'll just, and it's funny because like I was just looking up Chevy Chase, and I was like looking at all these Chevy Chase movies, and because I'm a big Chevy Chase fan. I mean, I remember in the 80s and 90s, that's all I watched was Chevy Chase movies, dude. I was watching Fletch and Fletch Lives and all the national.
He was great, but I heard he was not the nicest person to work with.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's common, but anyways, I was looking up, and I was looking at all the movies, and I was like, man, I love a lot of these older movies. Like he was in a movie where he was like an invisible man and all this stuff. Anyways, my kids were about to watch a movie before I came on, and we were looking for the movie Hook because I got a big DVD collection still, and we found it, but my wife also found a Fletch movie, and so it was like another weird like little synchronicity, almost like, you know, that I don't know, it's just weird, man. Like these things always weirdly come about. Like, why did I have to talk about that at this time, or whatever the case is? Why do we have to bring up Jim Varney or anything like that? And
well, I don't know. I was sitting there, and you're like, and that's the name that popped in my mind was Ernest, you know, and I didn't know his actual name was Jim Varney, but I was like, oh, Ernest.
Yeah,
crazy,
Ernest, yeah.
Crazy how we have these connections, you know, like how people just kind of subconsciously make these connections. Because I totally believe that was a subconscious connection. It was, I could have thought like a million different people. Why that? Why that guy?
Yeah, again, interesting timing, man. But it makes me feel like everything has happened before. Everything will
Mhm.
happen again. There's nothing new under the sun. We're talking about the Bible, and believe me, this I hope this never comes across as blasphemous, because I am a Christian. I consider myself a Christian. I go to church and everything. I read the Bible, but I do see there's similarities in all these other texts, right? The Bhagavad Gita,
Mhm.
or all these things, they all say the same thing. A lot of these things have similar tones of a Christ figure. So it makes me wonder when the it makes me put in the question, at least when the Bible was written and things like that, and how much of it was influenced by other Eastern religions and things like that too, where there are pieces of it, because none of the books of the Bible were written in the time of Christ, I don't think. They were all like
No, the of the New Testament
later.
were always kind of
Yeah,
written
we're all
later.
later. Yeah, like hundreds of years later in some case, right? In some cases. And then again, I'm not qualified to have this conversation, because I'm like you. I just found, like I've been going to church and church camp and everything my whole life, and I've just come back into Christianity in a way that's like, oh, that like I need to arm myself with the word of God. That's how you fight in the spiritual battle, right? And
Mhm.
so that's where that comes from for me. But yeah, man, it's interesting how these things, the whole point of saying that was that, what if this is all played out before and it's just playing out again, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I had a guy named M.K. Eddington on my show, and Premonitions and Prophecies is the name of the episode. And he wrote a book called Out of Place Artifacts, where a lot of these, you'll find a lot of like artifacts that seem out of place for their time.
Yeah.
And, he mentioned an artifact that was like a wheel, or I can't remember the name of it.
Is that the wheel that was found in a mine? I think it was like a Russian mine or something, and it's like in the roof of the mine. There.
It's the Kayam. I have to look it up, but give me 5 seconds.
Yep.
But it's like the Kumbaya artifact or something like. I gotta look it up.
Okay,
It's
and
called the
so,
Kumbaya.
Spirit and Truth. You said, I don't even accept the title Christian. Jesus was a follower of the way, so I follow the way. You know what's interesting? I suggest watching this movie called The Man from Earth.
Star Wars. Watch Star Wars. Follow the light. Follow good. Right.
Well, this movie it's a movie that almost it takes place in the guy's house. It's just them sitting down having this conversation, and it's actually a guy who doesn't die. He doesn't age, and I don't want to give the premise of the movie away too much, but he has to move every like 10 or 15 years. He has to change jobs and locations, because people start to recognize that he just looks exactly the same. But check that out. It's very interesting premise and concept. It was a B movie. Never made it to movie theaters, but those are the movies that I like a lot as well. Oh, you're sharing something here?
Yeah, I just wanted to show you. It's called the Antikythera mechanism.
Oh, the Antikythera wheel. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to show that. I'm sorry, but so that that's the world's first computer, and
yes,
it's interesting. It's very interesting when you see all these. You got the Baghdad battery and all these things that the Kumbaya artifacts and stuff like that looks like little miniature airplanes and stuff like it. And there's wheel ruts in Malta and places like that.
Have you seen the hammer that's in the stone? Like the iron wooden hammer that's in this. They found it in the stone, and it should be like 100,000 years old. There's no possible way that could have happened. Then there's in a Chinese tomb where they found like what looks to be a swatch watch on like a finger. It's like a finger watch actually, and it looks identical to this as well.
Yeah, there's even depictions of cave paintings or hieroglyphics and stuff where people are wearing like watches, right? It's like it just feels like this has all happened before. Like maybe this is a script that has played out before, and we choose to come into this life to experience something, learn how to love, whatever it is, and then go back to that spiritual place that we came from, if that makes any sense. Like we chose this existence at some point.
It does completely. Here's this watch. I'm going to share this as well because this is crazy. Present share screen, and yeah, like a Swiss.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, like it's got like the
That's
the
like a
hands
finger
on.
watch. Yeah, like a ring watch. Really,
Yes.
they have ring watches. I've seen them before.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
And yeah, this is like proof that time travelers exist. That's where that one came from. So
oh, there's pictures of people on cell phones and stuff like that from the.
oh
There's
yeah,
one
yeah,
from the
like
30s.
the Charlie Chaplin movie. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, where she's walking. There's another one as well. Now there is a device that they had around that time, which was like a hearing aid device that helped to amplify. And you held it to your ear, kind of like a cell phone. So I don't want to. I'm not discrediting it because I think that still is a cell phone. But we always have to look at the other side. So there's a device that you held up to your ear like this, and it kind of like amplified background sounds.
Yeah, there was the children of that woman said it was like a hearing aid, right?
Yep,
Or something
yep.
along those lines. It just doesn't make any sense, dude. I mean, it looked like a freaking cell phone, and she was walking on talking on a cell phone.
And then there's the Mike Tyson fight as well. But I think though that they've actually found that there was an actual phone that looked, not a phone, but an actual camera that looked like that as well. So it's like I do think that there is a lot of lost or there's maybe time travelers or something like that, or people who are out of place. There's technology that's out of place because I think there's certain people that are out of place that have brought the technology with them. But
I do 100% think that stuff is real. I think time travel is a real thing that can happen. We just haven't figured out a way to dematerialize our body and to materialize it back together yet.
Mm-hmm. And if time travel has ever been invented, then it's always been invented, because once you invent it, that's it. Because you can travel back in time. That means it's always been there then. So it's really, really fascinating. That could be a whole other conversation. We should have a show just on time travel and like I really like out of place artifacts. I think that is really, really interesting.
You have to talk to MK Eddington, man. He's really, he's got like 150 books about different subjects, and it's all around. Yeah, it's all around this kind of stuff. I don't know when he has time to do anything other than write books, but it was an interesting conversation, and people seem to really enjoy it. So, but yeah, I do think time travel is real, man. I think that all that stuff is. I think there's a lot of possibilities in this world, and we just haven't scratched the surface on some of them. And I think that we're probably moving into a time where we will see those advancements, right?
Yeah.
And then there will probably be a time where something comes and washes that all away, and then it comes back again.
And like you said, nothing new is under the sun, meaning that this has happened already. Like how many resets do you like? And that's what I want to call it. How many resets do you think have happened? Like it's there's too many resets. I believe that we've had some technological advancements, and then something gets wiped off, like Atlantis, getting wiped away. That was and I believe after talking with this gentleman here, Michael Laflemme, with Visions of Atlantis, this book, after taking a look at this book, he believes that Atlantis, like the last apocalyptic event that happened in Atlantis wiped it out in a couple of days, but he believes that there was 2 or 3 actual events in total that slowly reduced the size of it. Like it kind of like there was one apocalyptic event, and then people survived from it, and then there was another, and then finally gone, kind of thing. But it's a fascinating book. I don't know if anybody has not read this book, Visions of Atlantis. Fantastic. He provides you with a lot of information. It's not just like it's very technical, but he goes back into history to pull out everything. And then he also goes into Edward Casey, and then also the channeling book of A Dweller on Two Planets. Really interesting. That itself is a standalone, super interesting story. I don't know if you've ever heard that one before.
No, but I've heard of the Edward Casey stuff, and I've heard of Michael Laflemme, obviously. And there's a great It was classified by the CIA. It's called The Story of Adam and Eve, right? Or something along those lines. The Story of Adam and Eve, I believe, is what it was. It was called. It's an actual book that was written by a guy that you have to pay a bunch of money to get it now, but it was classified by the CIA, and you can actually download that PDF. And I might actually have it. I might be able to share a link to you guys, but actually, I do have it somewhere. Let me find it. But yeah, it's interesting, man. Like I think it's all happened before. I think, you know, basically the story of Adam and Eve, where every 6,000 years there's some kind of catastrophic event that happens.
Yeah.
So-
And it's not like we follow exactly in the same footsteps. I feel that like this advancement in this time is much more technological advancement, where it's kind of like a separation of science. Science is separated so far from some people might call it magic or, you know, spirituality, where in the past I feel that there was a close marriage between the two, you know, where science and spiritualism were very closely connected, and whereas now I feel like it's too far of a separation, and I actually think we're going to be bringing that back. That's what I feel, that when I said that earlier, when we're going to have like this high time, I feel that this high time that we're going to be having is more of the material wealth kind of thing that's going to fall, and then that second rise will be the connection of science with spirituality, and science for the good of man. Not right now. Science is not for the good of man.
No.
I'm gonna stand up on a soapbox and tell everyone that right now. You know. Oh, and thanks for posting that, Brad, to the chat there. Yeah. For those who believe that science is helping us, it's kind of like the same thing. The same thing when you were saying about good and God. You know, it's unquestionable. You know, it should be unquestionable. It should be something so good and so, you know, like fantastic. There shouldn't be these questions of, is it really benefiting us? So if it is not real, if you're having that question saying, you know, okay, we'll just talk certain medications. You know, certain medications have all these side effects. That's not good. Okay. If there's side effects that are detrimental to your health, that is not good. I don't care if you're saving you, if you think it's saving you from this, but then it's giving you these things. That's not good. Okay. So, and this is something that I'm learning as well. Like, this is still trying to break it through my brain, you know, a little bit. My wife is totally on board with that. Like, she's the one who's pulling me through all this, and it's kind of like you need to pay attention a lot more, and that is what I'm doing. Yeah. And I think the issue is that science is perverted with ego and narcissism and money. You know, it's who's going to pay you the most to maybe not do the real science and to, you know, do jaded experiments or corrupted type experiments to get the result that they want. And you can always manipulate it to get the results that someone else wants. And that's the issue, is that's what's been happening.
Yeah, there's there's a project, Project Stargate from the 70s, right? The classified CIA remote viewing. I think what happened, man, was they started remote viewing into the future, and there's always this block at the year 2025. They can't see past the year 2025, and that's probably scary. I don't even like to talk about that a lot, because I don't like first of all, I never like mentioning dates, because every time somebody mentions a date, it's never right. It's always like, in 30 days we're going to get this, or in the year 2012 this is going to happen. But I do think that there was, at some point, somebody remote viewed the future, and they've been letting all these very powerful and rich people know something's happening. Start doing something about, start protecting yourselves or whatever. These people started building bunkers. They started buying land at, tops of mountains and things like that in New Zealand, one of the highest mountains, which happens to be 2 miles above sea level, right? They're all buying land and building bunkers in places like that. And I think that they've probably got some information that something is going to happen in 2025, and they don't really know what it is. But I think what that thing is the awakening that's happening, that revelation, because I think that 2020 had to happen. I think God had to let 2020 happen to reveal to us, to what happened, man? We went back to a lot of us did. Dude, I was out picking blackberries with my kids and fishing all the time and things like that when 2020 happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting back to more of a natural state of who I am. And it felt good because I'm a country boy and I haven't done all these things in many years, right? From the South.
Thank
I grew up
God
down
I'm
a
a
dirt.
country boy.
Yeah, that's right. I grew up down a dirt road in the middle of the woods, man. So so I think that 2020 had to happen because we had to see who all these ugly faces were revealed in 2020, right? The media's
Mm-hmm.
ugly face, the pharmaceutical company's ugly face, the food that we were eating, everybody started waking up at the same time, dude. And I think it was because of that revelation that God had to show us, hey, this is what's happening. Now take your life back, right? Take control of all this and get these again, man, the fact that porn is I mean, it's being heavily censored in many states. It's not just South Carolina. The fact that all these CEOs are stepping down and all this stuff, like I mentioned earlier, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm trying to illustrate the point that these things don't just happen. And they're not just happening, again, there's not a reverse course for Mark Zuckerberg and all these people, just because like,
That's a whole other episode, right?
Yeah, just because Trump is elected doesn't make them do an about face. They were doing it under Trump too. Remember?
Yeah.
They did it before.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So,
But
like,
why now? Why now?
why now? Right. Why now? Why does all this have to happen now? And I think they know, because those bunkers that they were building, I think they were building them to protect themselves from us, from the people rising up, from the realization that we're going to start growing our own food locally in our own backyard. And dude, even my wife's doing it now, right? She's like, she was cleaning the house the other day and she went to clean the bathroom. She's like, hey, baking soda and vinegar, right?
Yeah.
To clean. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, well, that works, right? And I was like, yeah. It's like, what are you doing? She's like, I just don't want to use so much chemicals anymore. Like, oh man, my wife is getting on board too. This is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that everybody's feeling it right now, man. And to have these conversations 10 years ago, everybody would have thought you were a nut and they would put you in a nut house. And we're having these conversations like they're everyday conversations now. And I think
this natural way of life, like, and there's always been the outliers who've been the natural way, but it's becoming more and more mainstream, I think, is what you're saying. It's becoming so, like that just becomes more, like you said, more natural. It's just the way we're having these conversations. Yeah,
it's the closest you can be to God, is being close to nature and eating food that's naturally grown in your yard versus some chemical sprayed fruit and vegetable that's been sitting under a fluorescent light for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
I agree. Man, I got a bag full of limes and a bag full of oranges downstairs that are just from my father-in-law's land, and hopefully next month I'll be harvesting my own honey. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Hell yeah. And exactly my point. You got bees, dude. You're harvesting honey.
I'm a beekeeper.
That's right, dude.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Just everybody knows I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm a beekeeper.
And this spring will be like, I got some land. I'm fortunate enough to have land. I'm going to be building chicken coops and raise gardens and things like that we can start, and maybe even a green, a mini greenhouse, if you will, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start growing my own food, and I got a whole ton of seeds to plant. Like,
that's
I bought them. Yeah.
Okay. I will say that save your seeds.
Yes,
don't save the GMO type seeds, but if you can find natural seeds, stuff that has not been tainted, save the seeds on anything and everything. Just put them away, and they will keep for hundreds, thousands of years, actually. Go figure. And it's very, very important to save your seeds. So I don't know if you saw BJ's comment. Maybe we want to tackle that another time, because as when I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. Actually, this fog rolling through, when someone's like, "Yeah, watch this ring camera of this fog." I'm like, well, that's not fog. That looks like dust or smoke or something. It's particles blowing through the air or snow. But maybe we save that for another night. I know we're getting on here on this one, but I think
Yeah,
it's something we need to tackle soon. But I think it could be too long to talk about that right now.
Yeah, well, I will say this: they studied some of that fog, and they found that it was actually parasitical. There's a lot of parasites in it. And
Awesome.
I think that, yeah, I think that's interesting, right? It's
Yep.
like, but I had a guy that just joined my Patreon. I got a Patreon now for those who want to join. Yeah, he you can join at the Awakened Pod on Patreon. No
There we
shameless
go,
plug
everyone.
there, but
Yeah.
I had a guy on Patreon message me, and he said that he thinks that maybe they've been spraying chemtrails and contrails in the sky to mask this stuff for a long time, and maybe they're just trying to do it again to maybe disperse those plasmoids and orbs that are flying around. Maybe they just spray this stuff to help disperse them again, and maybe they've been doing this for so long, to get rid of these things that are popping in and out of our reality, which could be
Interesting.
possible. Yeah.
Now, BJ, do you think maybe is that the reason why your little guy had because her dog died on her? She had to actually do like CPR. I forget the whole thing. I don't want to misquote it, but she like brought him back to life. And do you feel that maybe that had something to do with it? Could be. Oh, yeah, Casey Joe had a stroke on New Year's Eve too. Crazy.
Yeah, sorry about your loved ones. I mean, your pets. I mean, they're your kids in a lot of ways, right?
They're part of the family. Yeah, they are
Yeah.
part of the family, man.
I will say that I live in kind of the country now. I mean, I'm out in the county, and we don't live in city limits. We live in the county, and we have some land, and I have all these trees around me, and they're mostly coniferous trees, pine trees, and pine trees absorb frequency, and they're diamagnetic. And since we've been living here, it just feels like, knock on wood, we've been very healthy. We don't have a lot of issues. Like, there used to be just sickness after sickness after sickness, and we were living near power lines and things like that. Now we're living in a place that absorbs frequency and is very close to nature. So I think that if there is something happening, at least try to get to a place where it's less pollution, less like city pollution and stuff like that. I know it's hard for people to do, obviously. It's not as easy to just up and leave a city, but it feels like that it might not be a good idea to be near a city when those kinds of things are going on. Like, it might be a better idea to be out in the country where you can plant a little garden or something, so.
Yeah. I think it's very important to do that. If you can have access, let's say you don't, buy a little pot, and grow something of your own. Grow anything.
Yeah.
It's amazing to grow something from a seed. I will tell you, you go buy a plant from like a store or something like that. Okay, yeah, just keep it alive. But if you grow something from a seed, there is so much love and attention that you have to that, and so much more care that you actually have that. You created that. Like right now, and I have this big pot that we had a palm tree, or like these palms, and they all died. But now I'm growing in there. I'm growing 2 grapefruit trees, and I am growing a bunch of like bell pepper plants as well. And when they get big enough, I'm going to transplant them to my father-in-law's land. And I've grown. What else is that? I've grown prickly pear, which we call nopal, and I've grown cotton trees as well. And I don't know if they're actually really cotton trees, because they don't get really high. They're more of like a shrubbery kind of thing, but a bigger shrub. And I've just grown them right from the seeds, and I find so much passion in doing that. And that's like, they're like, well, what are you going to do with the cotton? I don't know. But hey, I did it.
You have it. Yeah, you figure out how to make your own soap and all that stuff. Yeah, we're kind of turning into hippies, But yeah, cayenne pepper will kill parasites as well. So like if you eat keep cayenne pepper, ground cayenne pepper, in your cabinet, it supposedly helps kill a lot of parasites and stuff like that. So maybe there's ways you can go after these things that are holistic like that are just, there's another thing too. I can't remember what it is, but
chlorine dioxide solution. That is what I will go for. So I'm going to do a little plug here for CDS, chlorine dioxide solution. Very common to get here in Latin America, illegal in the States and in Canada as well. So as soon as it's illegal, makes you wonder why. They use this to to purify blood. They use actually CDS. But for you to take it yourself, no. This is what I think Trump was referencing when he said,
yes,
about bleach. Whenever it's like, oh, right, you want to drink bleach? This is chlorine dioxide solution. I will tell you, when you make it, it gives off a chlorine type of smell to it. But my wife brought me along again. Like I said, she brought me along kicking and screaming against this thing. Like, I fought this actually, and until I actually seen it do wonders. I saw it save my father-in-law's dog. The dog was literally going to die. They said he was going to die at the vet, and they said leave him here overnight. And I said to hell with that. If the dog's going to die, I'd like it to be with family. And we did this very strict regiment of giving him CDS every hour. Every hour we gave him CDS, and within 3 days, like not even 3 days, it was like 2 days. That was on a Friday or a Saturday, and they said, okay, we're closed on Sunday, but bring him back on Monday for a checkup. And we brought him back, and they're like, what did you do? This is a completely different dog.
Yeah.
Oh yes, DE, this here is amazing. Yes, drink it. We've been drinking it. I cured my dog that we rescued from the street. She was infested with worms. I would put in a little syringe every, I think it was like twice a day, and I'd shoot it down her throat and cured it from her worms. Instead of going and getting this chemical, like this paste, to put in to get rid of the worms, we use DE. We use DE for everything. We use DE for killing termites as well. It's good in your garden, like Skywalker is saying. It's good in your garden because what it is, it's crushed up seashells, and they're actually extremely jagged and like little knives. And like when ants or other creatures crawl over it, it actually kills them because it kind of like cuts them up. So
interesting. That's super cool, man. There's a parasite called toxoplasmosis. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
That makes you love cats, and I think there's probably parasites that do that for
and
everything.
I believe it's in cat shit, actually. Excuse my language, but I believe it's in cat shit, and that's why you have like crazy cat ladies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So interesting. Me and my wife were just talking about this, and she's fascinated with that kind of stuff too, man, because she's in the healthcare career field. So it's like, yeah, but it's interesting, man, that I'd never even heard of that until like a week ago. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Like, and it makes sense. Like, a parasite is going to make you think a certain way. That's why you have women who are just like, because I saw a video of a lady who did like a eHarmony video of herself in 2016 or something like that. And she was, it started off fine. And then all of a sudden she's like, and I love cats. And I love cats so much. And then she was just like boo-hooing about the cats and stuff. And everybody in the comments was like, oh, toxoplasmosis for sure. It's like, so I had to look it up, and then I asked my wife about it. So yeah, you're in medical too. Cool. Yeah, I'm not, dude. I started off to do a exercise science degree, and I was going to go coach football, believe it or not. And then I got into the first couple of medical style exercise science that, it was like chemistry, biochemistry or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And I was like, this is definitely not for me, dude. Like, I am not in the medical field for sure.
I would say for me, I never really studied too much. It was kind of like I had this general understanding, or this I don't want to say like psychic, but just this understanding of certain things. I'm like, I'm just going to stay away from that. I'm not going to do that. But then like some pharmaceuticals, though, I was like head over heels, like, yep, that's great. Like ibuprofen, Advil, man. I used to pop them like they were going out of style. But this is what I learned is, because I would get headaches all the time. I kind of have issues with headaches all the time, but they dulled the pain. And
I'm still here.
Yeah, your camera just went off. But so they dulled the pain, and I didn't feel it anymore. But when I finished using the ibuprofen, the headache would come, like it would almost like give me a new style headache, and it was kind of like a what do I say, what is it when you go off drugs? When you come off drugs, you get a
like a detox.
Kind of like a detox, or like, yeah, when you're taking drugs all the time and then you go off and you kind of like have the detox of it of sorts. It's kind of like that's what I was. That's what was kind of happening to me, was this like a detox from it. And then, so what would you do? And I wasn't realizing. Excuse me. So I wasn't. Yeah, withdrawal. Thank you, Mouse. So
Withdrawal.
and BJ.
Detox,
Yeah. So it was kind of like a withdrawal. And so what do you do? And it wasn't like I was addicted to them, but I would, like, take my ibuprofen. Oh, I got a headache. So next day, take another ibuprofen. Oh, the headache's gone. And it was a stupid cycle until I finally started to realize, like, okay, I need to stop with the Advil. And it was like 3 or 4 days of headache and then gone. And then, like when I kicked it, I say kicked it because that sounds so strange, but when I stopped, using Advil as much as I did, I had way, yeah, everybody's like, withdrawal. I had way less headaches, way less. Though I will say my migraine started to come back. So every now and then I do get a migraine, and yeah, I'm going to use painkillers for that, because that is crazy.
Well, guess what caffeine does to me whenever I don't have it, when I don't have a Red Bull for, if I only have one a day instead of 2 or 3, like I get these massive headaches. And I just think that like that can't be good, that you're affecting the way your body operates, like constantly affecting it. It has to be some kind of corrosive thing that you're doing to your body. And of course we're all sick. Of course we're all needing surgeries and things like that, because we're just poisoning ourselves 24/7,
24/7.
I'm the same. I'm not preaching here. I'm telling you that,
Yeah. Like
this is a testimony.
You're doing it from a different side, like,
yeah.
Like that's one thing I do stay away from now is energy drinks. I never really got into energy drinks. Every now and then I would, like, I used to be big into Dungeons and Dragons, and sometimes I needed some energy drinks to like go hard on like an 8-hour day of gaming or something like that. Like, I got to get my Red Bull or my Rockstar. I think I was drinking then at that time, but then after I'd be like, like I'd be drinking. I'd have one Rockstar, and then I'd be drinking chocolate covered coffee beans. Jesus.
I think there's benefits to caffeine. I think there's benefits to alcohol, believe it or not. I think that red wine
benefits
actually has
nicotine as well.
Yeah, nicotine for sure.
Yeah.
Now I know alcohol, you're letting spirits in and things like that. I get that. What is that? The Alcue, whatever it is, like spirit you're letting in.
Yes.
But
yeah.
But I will say that I do feel like maybe alcohol does kill certain parasites and things like that too. So, there's clearly some positive effects to it, because people in the South, at least, when you used to have toothaches, they would rinse their mouth out with liquor, right? Like that's how people would take care of like they would soothe pain by rinsing, because it would clean out. It's like it's alcohol, so it would clean out like infections and things like that.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So it was interesting.
Yeah. I think it's all all with a grain of salt, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very important. Like, when people are like people who smoke pot, every now and then is fine. But when the guy is like smoking it every single day and you're living in a haze, no. Like, I actually think it's a tool. I actually think certain drugs are a tool, and they are like a medicine, so to speak. But it's just like any medicine, man. You abuse that. If you're drinking that every day, or you're smoking that every day, or taking that every day, no, you have bypassed the medicine, and now it's become a crutch. It's become an addiction. Like if you're doing it on special occasions for certain reasons, then yes, that I think is perfectly fine. Like psilocybin mushrooms, or you're taking mushrooms, or you're taking ayahuasca, or you're smoking some weed, or taking some DMT. I am okay with that, to get to a certain, if you want to get to a certain level, or achieve a certain oneness, or connectedness. But if you're using it to escape, or using it to, to live your life in a completely different way, then no, sorry.
Well, I mean, I think God made us perfect, and imperfect, perfectly imperfect, of course. But what I'm saying, like, think about how our bodies function. I mean, they're so perfect to function in the state that they function like
Mhm.
that, right? It's like, so I think God made us perfect in that sense, and He gave us everything we need. We don't need any additional medicines. We don't need any additional things to alter our minds. We are clearly here for a very
Yeah.
specific reason. I think if He wanted us to see into the spiritual world, we could easily just flip a switch and we'd be into, rather than taking DMT or any kind of
Well,
psychedelics or
so,
anything.
so okay, but here's the counter argument to that. Then, if he didn't want us to, then why would there be an actual like mushroom, like
Maybe.
psilocybin mushroom for that
Sure.
to be there? Like is it a? It's not like this is like the apple of knowledge, at the Garden of Eden. This is something that is there for us to use. Now, I agree when we start combining and creating something, or not, I don't want to say combining, but like creating chemicals and things like that aren't that aren't good. But yeah, I
No, I'm
don't know.
with you, man. I was trying to read my ex 15 years. He finally let me adopt a cat. Okay, and had a midlife crisis, and I got more attractive and found peace. I adopted another cat. Life is great. Yeah, cool. Sounds like a win. I mean, I'm glad he got rid of that. Or did he get rid of the toxoplasma? What you call it?
I don't,
did he
yeah,
get
how,
did he
how
get
the
rid
hell
of
did
the
he get rid of that?
toxoplasmosis?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, how do you get rid of that other than just like a detox? Like you get rid of parasites and stuff in your body, and you know,
Ivermectin.
yeah, I think that stuff is, yeah, clearly it clearly has some. And if
Now,
you think,
now,
and
how crazy? Yeah, go ahead.
what if these things are? What if that's what aliens are, or just parasites? Right? It's
Mm,
like they're already in our bodies and things like demons and stuff. They're like parasitical,
hmm
and you have to like detox. And then that's why they are like, no, ivermectin's not good for you. Blah blah blah. Right? It's like
mm.
they're keeping it
I,
from us to
I,
kill it.
I, I really want to try ivermectin just to go on
Does
it.
it try
Just
it?
yeah. Well, why not? It's not. Yeah, it's a horse. It's a horse dewormer, but that's like I hate like that is absolutely crazy that they pulled that and people bought into that. Like, yeah, it's a horse dewormer, but what about everything else? It won the Nobel, Nobel Prize, medical prize. I forget what it is, medicine prize. And it's like, but we'll overlook that. We'll just tell you, don't take the horse dewormer.
There's probably things just like normal sun or eating a carrot that gets rid of this stuff. We don't know because we don't have that kind of information. It seems like that shit is kept from us from
Oh man,
pharmaceutical companies and all this stuff, dude. It's
I
like,
I have a friend who is all about like when you're talking about the sun, he's all about
does he hold
sunning.
it, sun in
What's
his
right?
butt, sun in his butthole?
Yes, I'm like, how do I say this? How do I say this in the best way possible?
Hey, dude, why not?
Yeah, to sun in his butthole, man. It
What would you rather them put if they said, "Hey, man, try this sun in your butthole," or go into a room full of
or bleach your because
radiation? You know
well,
what I
there's
mean?
people who are bleaching their ass, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
would you rather bleach your
yeah,
ass or would you rather actually just go out in the sun and sun your butthole? Yeah,
yeah.
he's
That's the
all
thing,
about
dude.
gardening naked too.
I don't mind. I don't mind that, man. There was a time where in my life I might have picked on somebody for doing that kind of shit, but I'm like, fuck it, dude. Even my older brother is like,
Don't get me wrong. I think it's funny. Okay,
yeah, yeah, it's
I'm gonna tell you.
funny.
I think it's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
But if you're doing it, hey, all the power to you. But I'm entitled to laugh a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, dude. It is funny, man. But like I said, me and my older brother, we were the ones that would pick on people. Now we're like, no, maybe we should we have a nude garden, sun our buttholes and stuff like that. Hug trees, man. All this other stuff. Meditate under trees and
Why not? Why not?
yeah.
I know it. Hey man, I've done
Mhm.
some crazy stuff. I think we can all settle on that one. We've all kind of done that crazy stuff, and I've done bad stuff for myself, extremely bad stuff for myself. And now it's like, yep. Let me look at what are some good things to do now with my life. How can I prolong this life that I tried driving into the ground when I was in my 20s and maybe even early 30s as well.
Well, listen, man, I know you probably got to wrap it up soon, but I just wanted to kind of let people know too that like I'll never try to push any kind of like crazy end of the world type scenarios and things like that. And
Mhm.
I don't think that stuff is good for anybody. I've been on many different live streams over the last couple of weeks with a gang of people, like a whole carousel of 8-10 different people, and it's what, talking about the drones, or they're talking about the fires, and they're talking about all these things. And I don't think it's good to, and as crazy as it sounds, talk about that stuff or let it affect you in any way.
Well, I feel that it does affect you. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
black pill, right? We're talking about the blue pill, the red pill. Now there's also the black pill. When people are black pilled, that means like everything is just doom and gloom, and you look at everything. Now,
live your life and live it locally. Live it with Jordan Peterson says, get your own house in order. Like, get that. Don't focus on the craziness of the world and trying to, oh my God, the wildfires in LA. Oh my God, the interdimensional fog, right? Just focus on like your only thing that you can control is your vibration, is your energy that you have. Like and believe me, guys, it's hard for me to do that too. I get in, me and my mom, we're so much alike that we get in these screaming matches with each other sometimes about stuff, and it's like, and so I can let things affect me too. I'm not saying I'm perfect with any of this stuff. And I, still argue with my wife and have moments where, arguing with my kids about something or whatever the case is. So I'm not perfect. And I think that's important to let people know, like, I'm coming from this from like, hey, I can kind of see what's happening. And I want that information to at least, because again, everybody in those chats were all, oh, it's Russia, it's China, it's this, it's that. And I'm like, maybe we should just not give it any kind of energy at all. Right. And just leave it alone. Just let it be, because I think that's how they get us. That's how they continue to keep us, the plasma ball of crazy. They just do this every time they need to, affect us, and it works every time, and it takes us down
to draw your attention to here, to there. And I agree. I was actually just thinking about this today. I'm like, I feel that what we see in all these aggressions and these microaggressions of what we're seeing, what being shown, is just a show, and don't get me wrong, there are people dying. I'm not saying that isn't happening, but it's kind of like, it's collateral damage. Who cares? We got you looking over here when in reality, we're actually all working together, and this is just what we want you to think. And sorry, Skywalker, I was microdosing actually psilocybin back when I was in Canada, and it did wonders for me. I would say it was like, I don't want to say that it was like a drug. I wasn't considering it a drug at all at that point. I was considering it as a supplement, and it really cleared my brain fog, which was huge. Huge. Yeah. As you can see, I'm not doing it now, so my brain fog is all around right now.
Like, in my mind, this is kind of how I see it, right? Is picture yourself standing somewhere in this dark world, right? This dark underworld, and you're standing there, and these electricity chains are holding you down in life. And every time one chain gets open, your attention goes somewhere else. And meanwhile, you're looking at the other chain, and then your right hand gets chained again. I don't know if that's it's kind of stupid to say it like that, but like, as you're focused on another area, you gotta realize that, hey, this one hand is unchained, right? And we can release, we can separate ourselves from this electric energy that's kind of pulling us down. That's kind of like a gravity thing that's kind of pulling us back in every time. And once you start doing that, man, I'm telling you, I promise from experience, things change in your life dramatically. And I don't know if that worked for you with psilocybin. I don't know if that's how it worked for you, but it doing this made me realize that, oh, it's all about energy. Like, where our energy is kind of being harnessed and used for other negative means. Yeah. Because everybody in these group chats were really good people, and they are, truthers like us, and they care about all this stuff, but they very easily get taken down that path of like, well, here we go again, and then it went from drones in the sky to interdimensional fog to now it's wildfires. We're very easily manipulated and taken down that path very easily.
Oh, of course.
And then and it takes us away from the bigger picture of, we have this light, this energy inside of us that has to be protected at all times, is harnessed. And, we have this energy, we have to bring it back, keep it into our own little torus field around our body. Because if we just let it go, it's going to be all over the place, and it's going to feel like the world is chaotic. So keep your God light inside of you if you can, right?
Damn straight. Yeah, we definitely got to do another one of these live here soon again, Brad. Just you and me, and we were talking about certain things. I know we were talking about off air there earlier on in the day, or we also can talk about CUM as well. If anybody doesn't know what that acronym is, Canada, United States, and Mexico. That's the. It's about, is that going to be a one big powerhouse country now? Will be the new union. I don't know. Oh my god, that's hilarious. But
yes,
yeah,
let your love light shine for sure. 100%. That's how I see it, man. Like, you got to let that's as crazy and as hippie as that sounds, right? It's like, it's just it's funny, man, because that's what it is. Like when you watch a good movie and it's heartwarming, it makes you cry, like that. Go to that. Be that feeling all the time. Or when a happy video, if you watching a video of a dog being rescued, and then it goes from being skinny and mangy to now it's got hair and it's big and all that stuff.
we love that.
Yeah, those moments, stay in those moments, that little pocket of energy all the time. Never shift out of that if you can. Like everything you experience, like keep that, if it's a sexual experience or whatever, just live in that moment, in that love, that energy, whatever that love energy is, right? It's like stay in that. So I agree.
All right, Brad. I think we can call this a night. Yeah, be authentic. Exactly, Skywalker. Brad, why don't you give a shout out where everyone can find you?
Okay, guys, please. I'm always bad at promoting myself. Trust me, I very much am. So, like, if you don't mind, if you listen to this show right now and you like what I have to say, you don't even have to listen to my podcast necessarily. Please go over to my show and give me a rating on Apple and Spotify. Those things really help us out in a big way. We get put in front. The algorithms put us in front of hundreds of thousands more people just by having reviews.
It's kind of like, you like the YouTube. That's great. We really appreciate that. We like the video, but going to the audio is massive. It's huge.
Yes.
Yes. And like you go to the Spotify for a 5-star rating, but I leave that up to you. You.
No, let's just be real. 5 stars help us out. Rye and I talk all the time. We get like a negative review, it literally changes our vibrations. Like it sucks, man.
And it bombs the total rating of our show. Like every now and then someone will not like an episode, and then they will be like, you said something that I don't believe in. 1 star. And what happens then is, like, I had like a 4.8, 1 star, took it down to like a 4.5. And I'm like, what?
It sucks, dude.
And then and you need, like, how many did you say? You need like 50 to make it
50. You need 55 stars to make up a 1 negative rating review. So those ratings really help us out, guys. And Rye would appreciate the 3,000 people that follow him on YouTube, I'm sure, to jump in there and give him some 5-star ratings, because, man, I promise you, people who want to come on our show, that's the first thing they do. They go to things like Listen Notes and they look at our ratings on there. And they go to Spotify and Apple and they look at our ratings on there. So please make sure you give ratings. They really, really help out a lot. We're not even asking for a lot. You can fast forward through a few episodes. I think it makes you listen to
Brad.
Does Brad do YouTube? Well, I do have a YouTube channel. I do have a Rumble channel. And I will be.
Brad doesn't do YouTube.
I do it a little bit, but I'm mostly an audio podcast. I've been bugging
him to do more YouTube. It's been something I've been pushing for.
I will be doing more of that. I promise I will. I just sometimes I mess up on an episode that I'm recording, and I have to add in something in there, and I don't like the way the video turns out. So I'm like, no, I'm just not going to post it. And that happens every episode, unfortunately. So
let me edit it for you then. I can do it.
Well, I got a YouTube. If you want to follow me on YouTube, it's, The Awakened Pod, I believe, on YouTube, and then The Awakened Podcast on Rumble. And, I really am trying to get my Apple followers up. It's, way lower than what it is on Spotify. So if you have an Apple account, please follow me on there. And again, those ratings go a long way. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and in general, man, just if you like, again, hook Rye up with the with some ratings as well, because, man, this thing
or check out the merch. or check out
check out the merch.
Check out the merch. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sporting my. Oh, hang on. Let me just as I wreck everything. My shirt. You know, it's I'm not proud of this shirt though. It was like a first attempt at it, but the ones on the merch store are way better than what you see in here. But yeah, thanks, Mouse. I really appreciate that, throwing that up there. But yeah, everyone check out Brad on you know, I hate begging for reviews and whatnot, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
it really does help. You know, we're not saying donate, give us money. We're saying just share the show or give us a rating, a review. So simple.
Give us a good
5-star.
Give us a good comment, because comments will take us over to the next week. Sometimes it's just like, oh, that was a good comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Brad and I talk a lot about our analytics, maybe too much.
Too much.
But you know, it's what happens. Okay, hang on. Can I get a link to Brad's YouTube channel? It came up with 2 individuals with a lot of
Melanin.
Okay, so Brad, why don't you Brad is going to throw his link in the chat. I'm trying to find a link for Brad, but keep coming up with some woman's podcast.
Yeah, sorry. That's why I didn't really focus too much on YouTube, because I just feel like it's shadow banned in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. So,
and that being said, everyone, you know, if you go back to any of my previous shows with Brad, all his links are in there. Like, because Brad was kind of like a latecomer to this episode, I don't have it in the description yet. It will be probably tomorrow. I'll have it all punched in there. So, and there we go. The Awakened Podcast, the Awakened Pod on YouTube.
Yeah, and you can find me on theawakenedpodcast.com for everything. I mean, everything, all the links are on there.
Yeah, his website, theawakenedpodcast.com. You will find, well, just like I said, why am I repeating what you just said? It's been a long day. I'm coming up on 3 hours for this show. So, there we go.
Buddy. I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, everyone. I'm gonna check out with my new music video that I made, and Brad's like, I don't like it because AI sounds creepy. I love it.
Hey, but I love the hard work you put in, man. I really do. For real.
All right,
man.
guys.
That's not easy. So
it was fun. Okay, Brad, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you letting me come on.
All right, everyone. And with that, everyone, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home. And if you listen to the song, you'll hear that in the song as well.
Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come and always